whenever he'd block a shot, he'd give him that wiggy finger. And recently he had a series of commercials where he was running through when people were trying to get something different from what he was supporting. I forget what the product was. And he would slam it out of their hand. And he would, as
Nice.
part of the commercial.
All right, we are live. Ow, freaking cat.
Hello, live, if anybody's out there. Billy was asking earlier today if we were going live today, so he may join us.
We miss 1 or 2 out of 26. People are all like, I don't know. They can't be depended upon.
That's it. Won't try back. Won't give him another chance. We out.
That's right.
Too many things to choose from. Can't mess around.
Whenever I see a cat now in my peripherals, I'm going to go.
You're looking to see if it's, yeah.
No. It's not Manny. All right. Oh, I got to pull up my notes. Welcome to the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to be talking about 2 episodes. The first 2 Superman stories from Superman issue number 9, the issue before, because Superman number 10 is the official issue where Superman officially flies in the comics.
Ah, okay.
For the first time, even though we know he's flown before.
Yeah, we have been making that argument episode after episode.
But as of issue 10, or at least I don't know which story in issue 10, but as of issue 10, we'll be able to go now. There's no doubt he is flying.
Okay.
DC has admitted it. It took him 2 years to finally admit that that's what he was doing.
Multiple action installments, and then 10 issues of his book that were, what were they, bi-monthly then?
Superman, I think so. And it's like, well, they're still they're bi-monthly right now, aren't they? Because it's
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because they have this one's got a March-April cover date.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, so it's been 2 years of his own book, but it's been longer than that counting his Action Comics.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. I am officially recording on my Audacity. So I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, let's take a look. And I am too. Okay. And hopefully this recording will turn out better since I'm using the headphones and your voice won't be coming through.
Yeah, I've started editing up the first of the 2 episodes we did last week. Mm-hmm. And I ended up just taking what was on the YouTube.
Yeah, sorry about
that. It sounds fine. The only reason I don't like to do that is I like to have each of us to have our own track. That way, if I'm clearing my throat while you're talking, mm-hmm. I can remove it. But it's not a big deal. So far, it sounds okay. It sounds pretty good.
Okay.
I have podcast clients that I'm always like, you guys really need to each record yourselves on your end. I said, not only is it a good backup, but it allows me to do so much more. And
editing. Yeah. And what you just said, I didn't think of that, but it's like, yeah, you could, anything coming through the one, you can just cut out and use the other. And
and plus, when you think about what's being live streamed to YouTube right now, so that audio technically is flowing through the internet. Mm-hmm. So if there's any hiccups on either end, that you just have to deal with. That's just how it is. If I cut out for a couple seconds every minute and a half, that's just going to happen. But when you each have your own local recording, I mean, that's how the pros do it. I've been listening to, a lot of podcasts, like NPR, for example. They will call when they have interviews with somebody that is not in studio. They will get them a mic and they'll meet through like a Zoom or a StreamYard or whatever, and that's how they'll do their talking, but they'll each record their own end so it sounds more professional.
It's interesting you bring up NPR. In the past I have, and I just recently started again listening to a show that they put out hourly. That's kind of just a quick recap of the big news at the time, and each one is like maybe 5 minutes or less long.
Yeah,
and I started. Way back early in my podcast listening journey, I listened to them and I just dropped them for whatever reason. About a year ago, I picked it back up, and I've noticed the last, year or so, it seems the only news item that NPR wants to cover is Israel.
Yeah.
And, I guess what frustrates me the most is, two things quickly come to mind. One, Israel isn't the only thing going on in the world right now. And two, they seem to prefer to cover Israel in a non-positive way.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the last time I heard NPR report on Russia's invasions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, last I checked, I think that's going on at the same time.
And I was going to try to play devil's advocate for a second and say that, you don't really hear a lot of stuff about Israel on the major news networks, but you don't hear a lot about the Russian invasion anymore on those news networks either. So it's I was going to say maybe NPR is doing that because they feel like Israel's not getting the coverage it should be. But then if they're also, who knows? It's all about ratings and profits and
Well, my thoughts are that whoever is in charge at NPR is not in favor. That may not be the correct words, but I'll use that. They're not in favor of how Israel is taking care of business right now.
Yeah.
And that is why they continually cover, the latest thing they did, latest. And I'm like,
and while I get that on a personal level, you expect, I don't care which news agency you are, you're supposed to be biased, right? You're supposed to report both sides equally.
Right. It's news that I thought that's what your point was, you're not opinion, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole nother show, which there is a place for that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you're news. And so you're just supposed to present as factual as you can, but also I think as many different topics as you can. But in a given day, I'll listen to probably anywhere from 8 to 10 of those episodes while I'm listening. And I promise you, every single episode has something about Israel on it. I'm like, come on. I'm just, if nothing else, I'm just tired of hearing about that one topic, whether I agree or disagree. It's like, I'm tired of hearing
I used to listen to NPR all the time when I was in the car. Mm-hmm. And I think I started listening to an audiobook at one point, and then that just never went back. But I remember why. It's because when I was delivering pizzas, they didn't have a way for me to listen to anything on my iPod because that was iPod days. Okay. So I had to listen to the radio, and I ended up just listening to NPR all the time because I got sick of hearing the same Metallica song over and over and over on the rock station.
Hoping the news would change periodically.
Yeah, but everybody's biased anymore. You can't. You can't find a truly. I don't know. Well, I'd like to think who's the old guy now? The oldest. Is it Dan Rather? He's like in his 70s or 80s now at this point.
Yeah, he's up there.
I think he's probably the last because he was under Cronkite. So I think he's probably the last of the old school.
Yeah, new school, definitely. I think they must follow money.
They totally follow money.
They must get money from, different places that are representative of different sides. And so they kind of, if they don't slant, they kind of like turn their
Yeah,
coverage that
they
way.
ease into it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so.
Yeah. There's a reason why. Yeah. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah.
It's that we could spend hours and hours. That's just the way that freaking country is anymore. It's all one side or the other. And it's like you're almost looked down upon if you try to walk the middle road and try to see, try to get the, I say you walk a mile in another man's shoes, and, there's just certain subjects. It's like, nope, you either agree or you disagree. And that's it.
Well, and today the problem is that if you disagree, then you're a hater.
Yeah.
Or you're a bigot, and it's like, what happened to just not agreeing with it? It's like, yeah, no. And not only that, but it's very easy for me to disagree with someone and continue to have whatever relationship with them. I mean, I don't have to see eye to eye with absolutely everything that they do. But yeah, nowadays it's like, no, you can't. I'm like, why not? When did that change? What?
It makes you realize why the rate of divorce is so high. Because if you have to be with somebody that always agrees with you, you're never going to have a happy marriage.
No.
That's part of what marriage is all about, is disagreeing and compromise.
Yeah, working that stuff out, man.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, there's a cat.
Oh.
That Socks. She has been obsessed with me lately. A couple of years back, it's like every day. So that's not walk on the keyboard. Okay. You just put a number 7 on the show notes. Darn it.
Uh-oh.
The whole show is ruined. But she used to hang out with me every day. Like, I'll be working and she's in the crook of my arm while I'm trying to work and type and stuff. And it got to the point that I'm sure you remember, she's Tuxedo Cat.
Mm-hmm.
And my girls, for my birthday a couple years back, got me a coffee cup, something like this. But it's got a cat on it, and it's a tuxedo cat.
Okay.
So it's got like, a pattern of tuxedo cats on it. And they're like, because you love Socks and Socks loves you. And then suddenly she just started hanging out with Karen back in her bedroom. And then she went from there to hanging out with Palin. And Palin recently left for college. And now she's just like obsessed with me again. So
okay. Making the rounds. Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't get up here at all last week. But that I will be surprised if that is her only appearance in the live stream today.
That's cool. I've got 2, but neither one of them are in here with me at the moment. So
yeah, I don't mind when they get up as long as they don't get on the keyboard and send IMs to people that shouldn't be. IMs that are just like blah, 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 blah. It's like, that was a cat. I didn't type that.
I didn't send that. Wasn't me.
All right, we had one person watching for like 30 seconds. It's like they jumped in and went, all right, let's see what this is all about. And they went, start. Nope. Because our number went from 0 to 1 and then right back to 0 again within like 10 seconds. It's like they went, start. Nope. There
you go.
What is this? All about Superman? They got Superman hats. They got a Superman background.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch a show about Superman. I guess the Superman show live thing didn't clue me in. All right. Well, let's get this party started.
All right.
We'll start by doing the following episode bit. The following episode was recorded in front of a live streaming audience on Saturday, October the 12th, 2024. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 69, The Phony Pacifists. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, how you doing?
Sup? I'm doing pretty good.
So this is for those of you who may be new to the show. you don't know that right now, this very moment, we are officially entering into our the banter segment of the show. We have it in our show notes, the banter segment.
Yes.
Ed, I understand you have some a topic for bantery discussion.
Yeah, I thought that we would take a moment and talk a little bit about what TV we're watching.
Okay.
My TV for the past month and a half has been primarily the same on weekends. I'm a huge college football fan, and anyone that follows college football knows that during the season, there is no lack of places that you can watch college football.
Yeah.
My wife and I were talking last night, and I roughly calculated. She and I found about 125 broadcasted games just today that there's going to be from starting about 9 o'clock until about 10 or 11 tonight. So about 12 hours, which sounds like a lot. But then when you consider that there are approximately 650 to 700 colleges that play football in the U.S.,
yeah.
You can consider some of those will be taking any given week off because everybody has a gap somewhere in their schedule. But still, if we say 700, there are 2 teams per game, of course. So that's roughly 350 games. So we'll just round that up to saying 300 games played every weekend from what would it be? From maybe the last week of August, but definitely the first week of September till the middle of December. 300 games played every weekend. Now that doesn't, and that doesn't count potentially a handful that would be on Sunday, but that doesn't happen too much because that's when the NFL plays. But you will get a handful anywhere from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday leading up to. This week, there were games all 5 days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There were college games that were broadcast either on, ESPN or Fox or whatever. So no lack of college football to watch. Not only that, but within probably a 20-minute drive, we are in range of 3 colleges here that play football. And then given about an hour-ish, we can be at Virginia Tech, which is very high-level football.
Yeah.
So for us, within about a 3-mile or a 3-hour driving range one way, if we wanted to, we could hit about 10 different colleges or universities that play football. So any given weekend, conceivably, we could find a home football game to attend live if we wanted to.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because as I was looking to see how many colleges there were, I am convinced that anyone in the U.S. can drive 3 hours or less and find a college football game to watch live if they want to. There are many places that play. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we got KU 10 minutes away. We got K-State. That's probably about an hour to an hour and a half away. And then my daughter is now going to Pitt State, and they're 3 hours away. So that's at least 3 within a 3-hour.
Yep. Yeah. It's range. Just, you don't, all you normally hear about are like the big schools. That would be what they call now the FBS. And there's about 130 schools there. So, I mean, that's plenty to talk about. But you also have FCS. You have a Division II, a Division III. You had NAIA, which the 3 colleges near us, that's what level they play at. And then you have junior college, smaller than NAIA. So all of those, there's all kinds of different dictates as to how you qualify. So, I mean, anybody interested, if they don't already know, you can look that up. But that's so, you have 6 different divisions of football. You only hear about one primarily, unless something really cool happens. You might hear about somebody else, Sports Center, ESPN, the plays of the day or plays of the week, whatever they do, maybe some big play or something. So, yeah, that's a lot of what And fortunately, my wife happens to like watching college football as well. So it's not a tough sell to be able to sit there on a Saturday and watch 10 to 12 hours of college football if we want to. So
yeah, I myself am not a sports guy. I don't watch any of it. But
I understand.
I went when I had a roommate 20 years ago that was a big KU fan, and so we were always watching basketball.
Okay.
But beyond that, just not just don't do it anymore. It's just not, I don't care for it. My wife doesn't care for it. None of the kids care for it. So it's just never.
Then there you go. Yeah.
Now,
moving on. Yeah.
Growing up, I'm the middle child. My older brother likes sports. My younger brother likes sports. My dad likes sports. So it was always on in the house growing up, but
you didn't have
I just never got into it. Probably because I was the middle child.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah.
Middle child syndrome or something. Oh, okay. So, outside of sports, what have you been watching lately?
Well, if I just need to watch something that I don't have to think about, I tend to rotate around a handful of sitcoms that I watch from beginning to end. And currently I'm in the middle or near the end of Modern Family.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think the only shows that I'm really watching, I think I mentioned before we started, there were 3. There's actually 4. They're all streaming shows, of course, but they're the ones that they're not Netflix shows, so they don't put up the entire season at once.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of season 4 of Only Murders in the Building, which has been excellent this year. Agatha All Along on Disney Channel, which I'm really enjoying, even though, really the only character that I have any knowledge of from the comic books would be Agatha, but she was so different in the comics that her MCU version doesn't resemble what was in the it's just the name, that's pretty much it, and that she is loosely associated with Wanda Maximoff. On Hulu, I'm watching The Old Man with Jeff Bridges, which is really good. I will say with The Old Man, I think they're on season 2. The very, very first episode is like, you watch that first episode and you're just like, oh my God, this is like the greatest show on television ever. And then every episode since hasn't quite been up to that standard.
Okay.
But you're just hoping they're enjoyable. But there's a part of you that's like, maybe it'll get back up to that first episode standard. It's kind of like, have you ever watched Justified?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The first episode of that show was based on, because the whole series is based on one short story,
right,
from Elmore Leonard, I think it is. Is that the guy?
I think that's his name.
Yeah, so that first episode, that was that short story, and that's why the first episode is so good compared to everything that came. It's a good show from front to back, but the first episode is probably the best of all of them.
I would have to agree with that.
And I know that The Old Man is based off of a series of books. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's pretty good. And then over on Peacock, I've been watching Fight Night, which is based on a true story about a back in the 70s in Atlanta, when Muhammad Ali, he wasn't boxing for a while because he refused to go to Vietnam.
Right.
And so to punish him, they took his title away and they wouldn't let him box anymore. And then eventually he was allowed to start boxing again. And this was like one of his first fights was in Atlanta against Jerry Quarry. I think that was the guy's name. And Muhammad Ali won, of course. But after the fight, there was a big party that was being held for a bunch of criminals. They referred to them as the Black Mafia, these like black mafia bosses from around the country came to Atlanta to watch the fight, and then they had this party, and then somebody robbed them. And so this is about that side of it, where somebody robs these, and it's all, it says right before each episode that while this is based on a true story, many of the much of the story has been fictionalized for entertainment purposes. And it's actually supposed to be, they reference a podcast, a true crime podcast, also called Fight Night, as the inspiration for the show. So once I watched the first episode, I went back and I listened to the podcast. And so the podcast has all of the actual correct information. And yeah, other than the fact that there were some criminals at a party after an Ali fight, and they got robbed, and a bunch of the names are the same. Otherwise, yeah, it's way fictionalized, but it's so good. It's got Don Cheadle in it. It's got Samuel Jackson in it.
So that is the show where the mobsters are played by a lot of A-level actors. Yeah. I've seen the ads, and
it's got Terrence Howard. It's got
Kevin
Whitaker. Hart, who's really good in it. I look forward to it each and every week. And I know that the new episode went up this week, and I haven't watched it yet. And they're about 45 minutes to an hour long, which is really cool.
Okay.
Very don't let the kids watch it. Lots of violence, lots of cussing, nudity. I don't think I've heard the N-word used as much as I have just watching this show. It's so good. Samuel Jackson is so good in it. They're just all, and I love Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle is like one of my favorite actors, and he's really good in this. And the guy that he plays is a real guy, and same with Kevin Hart and Samuel Jackson. But it's really good. It's a lot of fun. Basis, it's set in the 70s, so you got all this great music and this great fashion, and it's a lot of fun. And I know I'll be watching that this weekend. I'll put it this way. I am all caught up on Only Murders in the Building. That episode came out this week. Had I started the newest episode of Agatha all along, if I had started that earlier this morning, I'd be caught up there. And I am caught up on Fight Night. The Old Man, I think I'm 2 episodes behind. So.
Okay.
But I love Jeff Bridges, and trying to think who the other old guy is in it. The guy that was in Third Rock from the Sun.
Lithgow,
John Lithgow. He's really good in it too. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good show. And I am going to have to spend most of the episode now leaning back because as you can see,
you have Cat.
This is my day now. I'm trying, this is laying on my arms. So I'm trying to type, move my mouse around and junk like that all day long. And she doesn't care. She doesn't care.
Nope.
She's just like, whatever. Now I got to get comfortable again. That's about it.
That's funny. Okay. All right. So I think we have bantered enough. So let's carry on.
Let's get into this episode. Today we're looking at the Phony Pacifists, which is the first Superman story to appear in Superman #9, written by Jerry Siegel with art by Paul Cassidy. Superman #9 has a cover date of March and April 1941. And according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, it has an on-sale date of January 3rd, 1941. Here is what happened. Lois and Clark stumble upon a secret. I'm going to start that over. Lois and Clark stumble upon a secret military depot. When Lois investigates, she is arrested for espionage. A group of real spies try to destroy the depot, but Superman intervenes. The spies kill themselves and destroy their submarine to avoid capture. Clark returns to the depot and arranges for Lois to be released. As he is given more information, he spots more spies attempting to blow up the depot. Again, he stops them as Superman, but he lets the leader, Derwing, escape. Derwing is the leader of the Committee Against Militarism. The group's goal is to prevent the U.S. from rearming for Pacific. I said that wrong. The group's goal is to prevent the U.S. from rearming for pacifistic. That's a stupid word. Pacifistic reasons. But it secretly is in the hands of a foreign power. Superman records damaging statements from Derwing, exposing the spy to Senator Glassworthy and breaking up the ring. Ed, what'd you think of this one?
This had more going on than I remember most of the stories having.
Yeah.
There were several turns. There was a dude that was working against like 3 different entities, and it was almost confusing trying to keep up with who is with and what they're doing and what are they a good guy or a bad guy. You know, the one constant was Superman, and I think the only reason that we could tell that he was who he was because of that colorful outfit he wears.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's like, no, well, and Lois, she was out of it most of the time, so it was easy to keep track of her. But yeah, it was just very not necessarily all over the place, but there were a lot of subplots that just kept dropping. They all got tied up by the end of the story, I thought, pretty well. But yeah, it was a very full story for this length and this time during the Golden Age, I thought.
Yeah, I think the most surprising aspect of the story is we learn on page 1 that it all happens as Lois and Clark are coming home from a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Lois and Clark are out on a date, or they're just hanging out as friends. But she, you know, I can't remember if it's this issue, this story, or the story we'll talk about in the second issue. In this, geez, I keep doing that episode issue. I don't remember if it's this story or the story we'll talk about in the next episode, but I know that there is one point where she gets all angry at him again for being a coward, and she just can't be around him anymore. I think it's the next story.
Yeah, it's the next story.
I think that part shocked me more than anything. It's like, whoa, Lois and Clark are hanging out either as friends or I'm going to guess as friends. I think they just went to see a movie together, but and that's when, you know, they just happen to be driving by the waterfront, and they're okay. There goes the cat. Now I can sit back up again. They happen to be driving by the waterfront, and they see all this activity, this military activity, and Lois wants to check it out because, of course, she smells a story, and so she makes up this, you know, oh, I'm tired, oh, yawn, I need to go to bed, and Clark's like, oh yeah, me too, yawn, and you know they're both planning on coming back to see what's going on, and
he knows that she will, but she has no idea that he would.
Right. And there's this really great moment where he's following her. Superman's up on a building. He watches her come out of her building and get in her car. And he's like, haha, I knew she was going to do this. And so he's going to follow her. He leaps off the building. That panel is a great panel of him leaping off the building. Yes. His arms and legs are just splayed akimbo, or however you call it. And
the way he is drawn there, it's like, oh yeah, you definitely see that he's leaping there.
Yes, he's falling gracefully. And but that third panel, I love the narration then in that, because it says, leaping atop the auto, the man of tomorrow's superb muscles enable him to perform this amazing feat without one betraying sound. So he's able to jump off the top of a building and land on a car, and his muscles allow him to do that somehow without making this bam impact when he lands on the car. He's just able to gently, like a leaf, land on the car. And I don't know how his muscles accomplish that, other than the fact that he's flying.
Yeah.
But,
I wondered what was going to happen, because as soon as I saw that happening, I'm like, well, she's going to hear him land on the car. And then sure enough, the narrator tells us, nope, that she didn't hear.
Now, the third panel, though, where he is jumping on the car, it does look like we're missing a bit, that maybe he fell, hit the ground, and then jumped up onto the car, because he appears to be jumping from behind the car on top of it, rather than just landing atop of it from the sky.
Right.
But still, you'd hear that sound. But he hangs out on the roof of the car and watches her go in. There's even a point where she's trying to climb a wall and she's having a hard time with it. And he thinks to himself that as a man, the gentlemanly thing to do would be to go over and help her.
Go help her.
But he doesn't want her to know that he's there just yet, so he lets her struggle. And then the best panel on this page is when he leaps over the wall. It looks like he's, I don't know, I almost, you can't see his hands above his head because of the word balloon. But the position of his body makes me think that he's snapping both fingers at the same time and that he should be going, ole!
Well,
that's what it looks like he's doing.
Kicking his heels together.
Yeah, he's kicking his heels.
He's jumped up and he's kicking his heels together. Yeah, he's some like, kind of happy commercial where he's celebrating, and that's what it looks like there.
We do have a couple of instances in this story, and I keep forgetting to write them down, but we have a couple of instances where somebody ends their sentence with sneaking aboard the ship, and if I run into him, I'll point him out. But Lois, as she's sneaking up to this, to all this military activity and whatnot, she sees across the bay, somebody is signaling, because it's nighttime. Somebody's signaling with a flashlight. And so when she runs into, who is this? Major Lester and Sergeant Casey.
Right.
She tries to tell them, hey, I saw somebody using a flashlight to signal somebody. There's obviously some espionage going on. And they're just like, oh, yeah, I think you're the spy. Let's lock her up. And so they arrest her.
Well, because she's not supposed to be there to begin with. So, I mean, somebody who is not supposed to be there to begin with, trying to tell you that something nefarious is going on. It's like, and it's you. That's the nefarious.
Yep. Well, and that's how, that it might be how a spy would try to get, them to stop looking at them. It's like, oh no, I was following a spy. They're over there. You got to go get them. But
the old look over there kind of thing is,
And go ahead.
Something the previous page, the very last panel where Superman is walking behind Lois. Did you in your head see them walking up on their toes behind each other and hear some kind of music in the background as they were?
I didn't.
Oh,
but
okay.
The moment you pointed out, I can't help but not hear and see that now.
Yeah,
especially the greatest scene in the entire story that I just jumped right over happens in those three first panels of the following page, because he's following her, is creeping along behind her, and she senses that somebody is behind her, so she spins around to catch them. Superman sees that she's about to spin around, but since he's so super fast, he just spins around behind her.
Yep.
Very cartoonish. So when she spins around to catch him, he moves with her and just stays behind her the whole time. And she's like, I guess nobody is actually behind me. And he's thinking to himself, I guess there is something to this so-called women's intuition.
Yeah, that was a very playful set of panels there. Very motion cartoony for what I would imagine at the time. That has to be a thing that they would have seen in cartoons in the 40s.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see that happening in like a Tom and Jerry or a Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
Or a Looney Tunes. But not only is it silly and fun, it looks damn good. I mean, the panel where he is spinning around behind her, it just looks really good. Who did we say was Paul Cassidy? Yeah, that's why. He always does a pretty good job with Superman.
Yeah, good motion, good perspective, frame of reference for them, good movement of the bodies in order to get those story elements.
Even the S on his chest in that second panel, so many times throughout these Golden Age stories, the S looks horrible. You can tell that they obviously free-handed a quick X or a quick S, and then a lot of times when you see the red coloring on that S, it goes way outside the lines. And it always looks pretty bad. And that the triangle that the S is in is nice and wide going across his chest. It looks really good. But yeah, I'm really I really like those two panels.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun little interlude in what is, over and above a pretty serious story for
Yes,
the beginning of 1941,
41.
right? Yeah, yeah. So,
Yep.
um, and yeah, as we get into the some more of the spy stuff, I've got a couple questions there, but yeah. So as you said, the Lois, she's on the docks here, and no one is supposed to be. The docks were closed off by the
Yeah.
police, cordoned off. She sneaks in, and they catch her, and she tries to. Oh, but there was something going on over there to, get their attention elsewise. And momentarily, they're like, "Oh, really?" And they didn't see anything because it was
Yeah.
a light signal, and the light has gone out by now. So they, in essence, they perp march her onto the ship. What's up, Doug?
Doug is in the house. Doug says, "What's up, guys?" For all you audio listeners, what's up, Doug? How you doing?
Hey, good to have you back, man. So they perp march her up and lock her in a cabin on a nearby boat. I don't.
Yeah,
She's
I think it's a
she's
boat.
referencing a freighter over there is where the light came from, but I don't
Yeah.
think they don't really tell us what this boat is. So it's some military or military use boat at the time.
Now, in the meantime, Doug says he's glad we're back too. Touch my heart. In the meantime, Superman, using his telescopic vision, sees the guy who had the flashlight. They refer to him as a deckhand. And he jumps off of that freighter into the ocean, and Superman dives in after him. Now, that one panel of the deckhand diving into the water, he is completely covered in shadow.
Right.
It's just nothing but a black silhouette. And that is, though he is referenced often throughout this sequence of events, the narration telling us what he's doing and how he's doing it, that's the only time we see him. And I find that really weird. It was a bit confusing to me because, I mean, not confusing, but it was a weird way to tell a story because Superman dives in after him and they tell us that he's swimming underwater, and they tell us that he is closely pursuing the deckhand, who we don't see. Superman comes up out of the water as the deckhand climbs aboard a rocky thing coming out of the water, just a bit of land sticking out of the water. Again, we're told that this is happening. We even see the rock thing coming out of the water. Don't see the deckhand.
No, don't see dude
at
anywhere.
all.
Yeah,
we just don't see him at all. And then that's when the submarine comes out of the water and immediately starts firing upon the freighter. And Superman has to intervene. We got this really nice shot of Superman leaping out of the water like a freaking whale. Mm-hmm. And the shells are bouncing off of his chin. Ran out of vocals there, but the shells are bouncing off of his chest. I'm going to let you take over from here.
Okay. And I noticed after he takes this shell to the chest, which is the 1941 akin to taking an arrow to the knee. By the way, this is, Superman took a shell to the chest. The next panel shows him moving in such a way that he is not flying.
Well, it's like a whale jumping out of the water and bending over backwards.
There is no way. No. He is flying because he's changing his trajectory. He's flying.
He's flying
because he comes from, in essence, he's hopped out of the water in front of the submarine, which it doesn't have to be in front of the submarine because the submarine is shooting a whatever millimeter gun from its deck. And so, of course, it can turn that 360 degrees. So Superman takes one off the chest and he ultimately leaps from out, away, and beside the submarine, arcs up and lands on the deck of the submarine.
It's like a whale.
Yeah, okay.
The whale swims so fast, comes up out of the water, bends
You
its body.
you
Of
and
course, the
your
whale is so big that it doesn't clear the water
w
like Superman is.
Willie the Whale fascination there. I don't, it's yeah.
But he is, I mean, he's arcing over the top of that submarine backwards, got his arms out, like he's flying.
Yes,
It'll be nice when we get to issue
just
10 and we can just go, yeah, he's flying.
just acknowledge. Yeah, he
Yeah,
flew over here. He flew over.
yeah,
It's like, no, he jumped and he came down without making a sound on top of a car, and he's hanging. Which I do have an update. Hanging
yes,
from a leg. All this. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, it'll be fun to finally be able to put that behind us and take that one step at least toward the Superman, of course, that we see nowadays,
yeah,
with all of his powers and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It'll be nice not having to try to play devil's advocate
right,
and
try to
defend what he's
explain
trying
what
to
he's
do.
doing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, not that of course we have to, but for those that don't have the book and can't see what we're seeing, some level of explanation is necessary. But yeah, here before too long, we'll just be able to say he's flying or he
Yeah,
flew or
yeah.
yeah.
On
Go
the
ahead.
next page, we get an A because
Mhm.
there's a guy. So on the previous page, when Superman's flying over the top of the submarine, there's a guy standing out there with the gun. Superman lands on the submarine. The guy's like, fire! And they fire this. The Superman tries to twist the gun away and it just explodes. And then the next page, Superman jumps up to the top of the turret where the guy is, but the guy jumps back into the submarine and closes the turret.
Right.
And that's when Superman says, bashfully. And then he stays on. This is a weird 3 panels because he says bashfully, and then I guess that's him standing there on top of the submarine.
I
Not
think so.
thinking
Yeah.
of running out on a fight, are you? And then suddenly in the 3rd panel, the submarine is so far away that you can't even see it. And Superman is flying toward, I guess, chasing after it.
Yeah, he must have
yeah.
jumped off of the submarine in the same direction
Yeah.
before the submarine went underwater, because, as we said, he can't fly. So
No.
yeah, it's yeah.
But the submarine blows up the freighter that the dude was on, that the deckhand was on. Actually, wait, what does the?
No, he turned towards the shore. Before the Man of Tomorrow can reach shore, the torpedo strikes its destination. So
blows up that bit of land where the deckhand was waiting. Just blows the deckhand out of the water, basically.
Yeah,
just like, we can't let anybody stay alive that could testify against us, and so they blow him up. And yeah, and then Superman, I guess he cracks open the submarine and it explodes.
Yeah, first he rips the propeller off so that it can't go anywhere, and then as he's trying to break into it, it self-destructs in essence.
That's right. Because they kill themselves. So
I guess they know that it's Superman or something. I mean, I don't necessarily know. I guess they have seen him take those shells off his chest and all that kind of
at least the one dude that was up on deck saw him. So
they know it's. They refer in this story or the next story. They just refer to it. Are we back?
I think so.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. We had a power suck or an internet suck there or something. Yeah.
Had one of them internet things.
Yeah. So either way, Superman takes care of the submarine here. So that aspect, and this is the beginning of what I was saying, that there were so many subplots going on in the story. This submarine has basically been a plot or subplot as we are moving on, but right now it's been the plot of the story since the beginning, pretty much. The harbor, something going on, signaling, submarine, all of this stuff. So now the submarine is gone, so it can't be used anymore, and in a way, it kind of felt like, well, okay, that's the end of the story. You know, in the next page or so, they'll wrap it up or something. No,
Yeah.
they just we keep marching on here, because now Clark goes back to wherever he left his clothes, and he dresses, and now he's going to try to track down what has happened to Lois, where she is. So he runs back into Major Lester and Sergeant Casey. Now, Sergeant is it Sergeant Casey is a local police officer,
That's what I thought. Yeah.
and then
He's in
Major
a blue
Lester
uniform.
is military.
Yeah.
As we're in this situation where the two are mixing.
Yeah. And Lois makes a comment at the beginning of the story when they first see all the activity out there. She says, Sergeant Casey is out there. He'll tell us what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so they know him. He knows them. But he tells them to beat feet, basically. And Clark, you know, he comes up to Sergeant Casey and this lieutenant, and he's like, he finds out that Lois has been arrested for espionage, and Clark's pissed. And rather than being Clark and going, oh boy, guys, I don't know about that, you know, and hemming and hawing and being a coward, he gets all up in their faces and he says, you better let her go, or the Daily Planet is going to publish a story on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, okay.
He threatens
Maybe we should let her
media
go.
on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1941, man. You can't be having any bad press on the military or the local police. That's not going to work.
Yeah. And so they let her go, and she comes out of her room that they have her waiting in, and she's pissed too. And she tells them that it's a good thing you released me before I lost my temper. And they let her know that, hey, Clark's the reason you're out. He stood up for you, and she doesn't seem to care. She thought he'd be asleep.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't go, oh, Clark, you're my hero, or anything like that, or whoa, Clark, you grew some balls. You know, nothing like that. She's just like, I thought you were gonna be asleep. And then he can sense. He uses his X-ray vision. He sees that there's 3 identically dressed guys in brown pants and white shirts underground in a tunnel beneath them with a bunch of TNT or dynamite or whatever, and they're getting ready to blow it up. And he can hear them saying that once they blow it up, all the munitions above them will explode as well. And so he needs to try to come up with an excuse to stay behind and check them out. And he tells the others that his feet hurt. So he wants to just kind of hang out there for a little while because his feet hurt.
Yep.
But he changes into Superman, tunnels beneath, and boy, those guys just go at him, don't they?
Yep.
They try shooting him. They try sticking him with knives. And here was another confusing part, because we got this panel where they start stabbing him, and Superman's like, don't. And he looks like he's being stabbed, like he's getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're all like, oh, all of our blades are broken. Why did you pretend that you were injured? And he goes, I just wanted their leader to think he was getting away, because there are actually 5 of them. One of them took off down the tunnel.
Every time you turn around, there's more.
Right. Yeah, because the first time we see them through his X-ray vision, there were just 3.
3. Okay.
And then suddenly there's 5. We don't see all 5 of them together, but we now see 4 of them together. But we're told that one of them, their leader, has run away.
Right. Yeah.
And boy, they reach back for a couple years, and they do that classic Superman thing. He takes all 4 of them, 2 under each arm, and just runs down the tunnel with the 4 of them. It's funny because just yesterday, I have been trying to update all the old episodes with a new theme song and whatnot. And I had one that just didn't sound good. And I ended up going back to the YouTube audio, which sounded much better. And so I sat down and I listened to the whole episode to take out anything that, basically I re-edited it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the episode, I think it was episode 7, Superman in the Slums. He's dealing with these 4 teenage juvenile delinquents. And at one point he has all 4 of them under both of his arms. And we commented about that quite a bit in the episode. And then suddenly I read this last night. So same day. And I'm like, oh my God, he's doing it again. I don't think he's done this since that issue.
Right. Yeah.
And the same day I run into both instances.
Yep. So now, so he gets he's got the 4 guys here, and he leaves them. So, yeah, this is kind of weird here. The sequence. He's running through the tunnel with them because he's taking them captive. Next panel, he has gotten to where the leader went from the underground tunnel above ground, and Superman is just poking his head up through the ground. No sign of the 4 guys, and he sees the leader getting away in an airplane. Conveniently, there was an airplane nearby. And then a panel of the airplane, and then the next panel, Superman in the air with the 4 guys. Now, you can figure that since the leader is getting away in an airplane, Superman is going to want to follow him, tag along somehow. So he's got to do something with the 4 guys. He can't just carry him around. But then I'm like, well, why did you take him to begin with if you didn't? Yeah. So he decides that what he's going to do is he's going to maroon them on top of a power pole somewhere.
Yeah,
along
he
the
can't
way.
just let him go. He can't just let him run free.
No. So he leaves them there basically on top of the power pole, and they're all clinging to different aspects of this big power pole. Who knows? What is it? It's probably 15, 20 feet off the air is what they are. Yeah. I mean, you could drop, and if you're lucky, not really get hurt and manage to get away. But yeah. And then Superman takes off in the air. Looks like he's running, but I guess he has leapt, and he grabs onto the plane, much like he did with the car, only without the explanation.
Yeah.
He landed on the car without a sound so he could keep up with what Lois was doing. Here he grabs the back of the plane and allows the plane to pull him along without altering the flight or changing the weight of the plane or anything like that to follow the plane.
His supreme muscles allow him to hang on a plane without affecting the weight in any way.
Yeah, I guess. And it shows him grabbing onto the tail. And I believe there is a control flap on the back of the tail.
Yeah.
Is that the aileron? Or I mean, you see the cross portion of the tail. I know that has flaps, but I thought that the tail itself at the end of it has a flap too.
Yep.
And that's what he's holding. So it's like, well, then the plane wouldn't be able to turn because you're holding. Yeah. So,
these days, had they made this story, in the last 20, even 30, 40 years, there would have been a bit, we'll pretend that Superman suddenly can't fly. There would have been a bit where when he grabbed onto the back of the plane, you would have seen the guy in the cockpit go, whoa, something just added 100 pounds to the plane. And then he'd look out the window and go, well, I don't see anything. And then just keeps flying.
Yeah.
But yeah, they let our imaginations do that in this. And the thing with Superman right now, like you said, why did he grab these guys if he wasn't going to take them along? He obviously isn't thinking ahead. He's making it all up as he goes along. This is the Superman that just makes it all up as he goes along. And it makes me think of Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a scene in Raiders where I think Indiana Jones and Sala see the Germans taking the Ark away from the burial site. And I think Sala tells Indiana that they're going to put it on a train, but then they see them taking it in a convoy of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And Indy tells Sala, all right, go into town and hire us a ship, and I'll meet you there. I'm going to go get the Ark. And Sala says, how? And Indy says, I don't know. I'm making this up as I go along. And that's Superman in this issue. He's just like, he's going with the flow. He's trying to do what he can. And, obviously he thought, well, I got to take these guys with me because they're going to have to go to jail. But, oh, wait, no, I got to get this guy too. So I'll hang these guys from an electrical pole. And, I don't know, maybe I'll come back for him. I don't know, but I got to grab this plane right now and let it take me where it's going. And we'll see what happens from there.
And just so that you know, by the end of the story, he never goes back to get those guys. So we really
Not
don't
that we
know.
know of.
We don't know what happens to him.
Yeah. And when we get to that part in the story where he goes back to Lois, I'll talk about it when we get there. But for a moment, so much happens between the time that he says, my feet hurt, I'm going to sit here for a moment, to when he gets back to that point that I forgot that he literally went straight from there. All this shit happens, and then he has to go back before they knew he was gone. That's how rapid fire things are happening right now. And so much is happening that I was really confused that why is he pretending? Why did he go back? What? Oh, that's right. He's supposed to have just been sitting there with his barking dogs this whole time.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, the plane lands, he jumps in a car, and then this dude who I guess is this Derwing? Yeah, I guess this is going to be
Derwing. Yeah, this is Derwing.
Where did they give that name?
Just now.
Just now?
Yeah. I think this is the first time we hear his name. As soon as he walks in, the guy says, "Thought you'd never get here, Derwing. You're late."
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I completely missed that they gave him a name. But yeah, he jumps out of the plane into a car and drives to the Senate office building, the narrator tells us here. And as Superman gets on scene, he lets us know that he's entering Senator Galsworthy's office. This ought to prove interesting. And then we have this very textual scene.
Very weird.
With Derwing and at least 3 other guys. Looks like maybe they stay pretty consistent with 3 other guys.
Yeah, but they make it sound like it's a room full of people at one point, because Derwing gives a whole speech about how he's chairman of the Committee Against Militarism, and Senator Galsworthy is helping me and letting me use this space, and this is what we're doing, and we're not going to aid any warring democracies, and we're trying to get the United States to stop being a bunch of warmongers and blah, blah, blah. But then at one point he mentions says after most of the men depart and only a few remain. So at that point, it's like we see 4 max people in that first panel, and one of them is Derwing. So when most of the men leave and we're left with just a few of them, we're still seeing 4, Derwing and 3 other guys.
Right. Yeah, which is what we started with. And it's like, well, what? Yeah.
And 2 of those guys, I want to refer to them as who are the 2 brothers involved before the whole Facebook thing that they say that what's his name Zuckerberg stole the idea for Facebook from?
I'm not sure.
The Winklevoss brothers. That's what these 2 guys make me think of, because they're always right next to each other, even though it's only just a few panels. And they're right next to each other. They might as well be hugging. They could be Siamese twins. They're just pressed together the entire time. And they're very funny. They're very funny because before all the saps, the gullible saps leave, as they refer to them, the guy's giving his speech and he's talking about how that the Army's supplies stored here in Metropolis are about to be exploded just so that the grafters can sell new materials at the taxpayers' expense. And one of the Winklevoss brothers go, "It's outrageous." And the other one says, "We'll protest." And then the guy says, "We'll leave Derwing, we'll leave the office and then we'll begin to do this stuff." And they go, "Bravo, you can lead us. We can't fail." They're just very, very, they are some ass kissing dudes is what they are. They even refer to him before that second row of panels. I think they refer to him, that guy, as their leader at some point. The leader wants us to do this. It's like they just so quickly turn into these sniveling yes men. "Yes, master, we will do this for you. You are the leader. Bravo. You're the best." It's just, they crack me up.
It is. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I got to point out one more panel
Yeah.
because this is where it did it for me. Because, like you said, there is a lot of text on this page. There's a lot of talking, but after most of the group leaves, Derwing admits to those left behind because the two, as I keep calling them, the Winklevoss brothers, they basically tell Derwing, all right, now that all the saps, the gullible saps have left, tell us what you're really here for, because we want to know what we're going to get out of all this. We don't care about any of that military peace crap, pacifist stuff. We want to make money, and we want to know how you were going to do that. And just by telling him that, Derwing's like, hey, you're my kind of people. I'm going to tell you all the truth now because I can see that you're just like me. And so that's when he tells him that he works for a foreign nation that wants to basically, they want to rule the world, basically. That's what this foreign nation wants. And they know they can't do that while America stands in the way. And once they accomplish their goals over here, then his nation will take over. And when that happens, these guys will stand to profit. And so the two Winklevoss brothers are like, splendid. We'll all be big shots when that day arrives. One guy's even holding his hand up like, yay. Yeah. It's so funny. And that's when Superman rushes into the room so fast to turn on the dictaphone, which would have been an old-time tape recorder.
Mm-hmm.
He manages to rush into the room, switch it on, and rush out so fast that nobody sees him. They think a hurricane has come through, but it's like a hurricane was just in here. Must have been nothing. I mean, I would have been freaking out. What the flip was that?
No doubt.
You know?
A big rush of air like that. I mean,
maybe we should go into another room because that was freaky.
Yeah, something weird is going on here.
Yeah, but instead of that strong wind, almost like a hurricane. What could have caused it? Never mind. It's gone. Okay.
And rather than using Nazis in this story, they reference totalitarian governments, which at this time Germany is. And actually, if you look up history, most of what is going to be called the Axis in World War II are all under totalitarian rule. Yeah. Spain, Italy, the USSR, Japan, Romania, so it doesn't, so they're not saying Nazis, but I believe by saying totalitarian government, they're implying so that they don't have to say Nazi, since they've already used Nazis in previous stories. But I'm like, Nazis are as good as any bad guy right now. So just go ahead and use Nazi.
Without looking it up, I'm fairly certain, because I think we talked about this a year ago around the end of the 40s. I believe that World War II may have started by this point. America's just not in it at this point. And there's a lot of this isn't our fight. Right, we need to stay out of it sentimentality going on in America right now. So it's very possible that, of course they mean the Nazis. We know that, but maybe they can't say it because they don't want to, I don't know, maybe they don't want to come across as too political. They don't want that side of America going, oh, you're just trying to get us into the war,
I just think it's funny that at this time also, it could be, although the characterizations aren't correct, but they could be referring to Japan also, which a little bit later, by the end of this year, we will, be a little bit more interested in what Japan is doing in the world. So,
or even Italy. I mean, Mussolini. There was I listened to a podcast. I can't remember the name of it now, but after World War II, there was a large group of American businessmen, rich millionaire type businessmen, who tried to it never got to the point where you would say it was an attempted coup, but they had this whole plan put together to take over the government because they really liked what Mussolini was doing. They liked this whole fascist thing that was going on with Mussolini. They thought that America should be run that way. And it was a really interesting podcast, but just based on, I don't know. Yeah, these guys are could be Germans or Italians at this point. But
yeah, they could be any of those. But I feel pretty sure that they're probably supposed to be German.
Oh yeah,
So.
yeah. I think anybody from that time forward, when you look back, of course, the Japanese were obviously involved. Otherwise, I mean, they're the reason we got into the war,
right?
And the Italians were involved. That was all part of the Axis powers, but the Nazis stand above them all. They always have.
Right.
So tell us about this funny moment when the senator arrives.
Okay, so the senator is coming to his office, but he runs into Superman, who is eavesdropping on our ne'er-do-wells here from inside. So he's not having to hang on a sill or anything like that. He is. Where was that? That's in the, okay. So the senator arrives and he sees Superman. Superman is just outside his office door, and we'll say that the senator is coming down the hallway towards his office. He sees Superman, wraps him up from behind because he sees that Superman is eavesdropping. He knows that something is going on in his office. Grabs him, puts him almost in like a headlock, says, "What are you up to?" And Superman says, "Shh." He whirls him around and puts his hand over his mouth, says, "Shh, listen." And so then you have a narration panel. In the next panel, you see that Superman is behind him, holding him, and he's pushed him up towards the doorway so that he can get a good listen on what's going on the other side of the door. And that's where the senator gets clued into the fact that these men are using his office, which he's aware of, but they're using his office to do something that he had no knowledge of. It's not what he was told or what he thought his office was going to be used for.
Yeah, he thought they were just a pacifist group, and this is where he learns that they were phony pacifists.
Which this group, it's bad enough that this pacifist group is trying to blow up a munitions and supply depot. They have fired on a freighter and on American land in a submarine. And so it's like, well, I guess the senator, of course, doesn't know that these two incidences are connected. No. But in hiding the true goal and pretending to be just an anti-war group, to have started out with all of these major plans as far as blowing stuff up and actually shooting on American soil and things like that. It's like, well, it's going to be interesting that you're going to try to maintain your cover when you've already done these far more unfortunate thing, worse things than what just a normal pacifist group. Well, so you would think. I mean, later on in history, pacifist groups in this country go pretty extreme at times.
Yeah,
but
for a pacifist group, they're pretty violent.
If that's your cover,
you do run across people like that a lot. It's like, if I have to kill 500,000 people to allow peace to break out in our world, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, and automatically it's like, well, then what separates you from them again?
Nothing.
Explain
Nothing
that to me.
Nothing.
I mean, if your ends might be different, but if your means to those ends are the same, you're the same.
Each side thinks they're doing the right thing.
Oh, absolutely.
They are, Road to hell is paved with good intentions.
But it's just funny. It's like, once you cross a line, it's like you're the same thing. You're calling it different. That's all.
But I love this scene simply because of the senator who he's coming back to his office. He's been out to lunch or whatever, and he sees a guy in a crazy suit eavesdropping outside of his office. And, I think nowadays most people will be like, excuse me, what are you doing? But he just sneaks up behind him and grabs him in a headlock. What are you up to, buddy? And tries to wrestle him to the ground. There's just no, there's no subtlety to that at all. He's like, maybe he had a big steroid burger or something for lunch, because
maybe
he doesn't even try to solve the issue with words. He goes immediately to grappling with Superman in the hallway.
Yep.
Makes you wonder if this has happened to him before.
Well, he was prepared. It seems he didn't hesitate or anything. He didn't try to talk to him or anything. He just sees him eavesdropping and he gets all physical.
Yeah, and then when you turn the page, once he learns what's going on in there, he rushes into the room and punches Derwing right in the face. He obviously doesn't hit him very hard because the Derwing just goes, "Ow, grab him." But
still, he rushes in. He doesn't take time to see, perhaps you're going to be outnumbered or anything. Yeah. He just rushes in. And how does he know which one to punch? I guess because this is the dude that set up the meeting.
Yeah,
because
I think he knows Derwing because he just happens to burst in at the same time that Derwing's saying, he busts in. Derwing says, it's our good friend, Senator. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. They obviously typed that wrong.
It's our good
friend.
Our
good friend, Senator Derwing. It's like, no, you're Derwing.
It's our
That's a typo.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It's like, good friend, eh? So there's the second A in our issue. And then you traitor, pow, right in the kisser.
Yep. Runs up to him. And then
that's when the leader thing comes in. He's attacking the leader.
Yeah.
Which, wow, you went like 0 to cult in 60 seconds,
Yep. Lot more going on off panel than apparently we have been exposed to.
But all three of them, because now there's just 3 of them. I don't know where the 4th guy went.
Who knows?
But they jump on. Well, no, these must be 3 other, because Derwing is not in this panel, I guess, when they're tackling the senator, because Derwing is escaping out the window.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Superman rushes in and just starts throwing people in all directions.
Well, no, I think it's Derwing that gets the senator on the legs.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he's got that shirt on. And then while Superman comes in and starts throwing people around, that's when Derwing takes flight and starts trying to get away.
But he goes out the window and he tries to climb down the drain pipe, which gives way, and he falls. Superman jumps out the window, catches him, does that thing where he just bounces off the ground so nobody's hurt, and jumps back up to the window and tosses the guy in the window. The guy is really upset. He doesn't seem to have wanted to kill himself. That doesn't seem to be his goal when he goes out the window. But once he starts plummeting to earth, I guess he's like, well, I should probably die so none of this gets out. Because then when Superman grabs him, the guy's like, no, let me die. And But Superman tosses him back in the window. And then that's when he goes back to the depot. This is where I get confused, because he just tosses him in the window and he goes, I have to get back to the depot before they find out that I'm gone. And to me, hours and hours and hours have gone by since he left the depot, but I guess not. He gets back just in time as Lois and the sergeant show up and ask him how his feet are. He's fine, thank you. Let's go. All I'm interested in right now is an easy chair.
Yeah. So you figure they're checking out this building. So it was what, 15, 20 minutes, and then they came back to where Clark was.
So he did a lot of shit in 15 minutes.
Yep. Went across country, across the city to wherever this other building, came back, followed the plane, got the guys underground at the depot, which this is where they're at here, is where this supply depot is.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit of stuff for, like I say, probably 15, 20 minutes at most.
Yeah. But no, it had to have been at least 3 hours. At least. And then we get the classic final panel. Lois and Clark. Lois is reading the newspaper. I can't understand how you dug up the material for this scoop. And the last words, there are many things you don't understand, my dear. Damn, Clark. Clark gets in like he sticks his knife in her.
Yep.
He might as well have just said, "That's because you're stupid."
You're a girl.
Stupid. You're a girl. You don't know stuff. You're stupid.
Yep.
Can I kiss you?
No, not yet. He will.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This one was a lot of fun. So chaotic, very confusing at times. So much happens. I just love these stories that within 13 pages, it's like 6 issues worth of stuff happens within 13 pages.
You know, this story would be multiple issues nowadays. Yeah. There's no way that they would condense it this much.
Yeah. And if, I think if I was buying a comic book nowadays, a new comic book in which all this happened, even in a 22-page stories, I think I would just be exhausted by the end of it. I don't know that I would go, well, that was worth my money, because there was a lot of stuff that happened. I think I'd be wondering why they tried to cram so much into it.
Yes, absolutely.
But yet you knowing that this is a golden age story and that's just the way it was, as exhausting as it is, it's like, these are the best ones. These are the best stories when they put so much in there that couldn't possibly happen in the 15 to 20 minutes that realistically Clark was gone.
Yep.
But yeah.
And this is just the first story. There are 3 more in this book that we're, if we're sitting here holding this thing reading, we're only 25% of the way through it.
And let me go to the cover page here. They were, it doesn't have a price on it. I'm sure it does on Mike's Amazing World, but they were like, what, a dime?
I think, 10, 15 cents. Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, a dime back then is different than a dime now, but still, the way I understand prices of comic books now based on prices of comic books back then and normal inflation, a dime back then would be like $1.50 now. It's the comics are way more expensive than they should be based on normal inflation. But yeah, man, back then you give them a dime and you get 4 stories that would fill an entire trade paperback worth of things that are happening nowadays. That's a good deal. I can understand why people loved comics so much back then, why they were so popular.
It's also one of the reasons that the anthology concept for some people is as popular as it is because for whatever the price may be, you typically feel that you have gotten more for your money.
Oh yeah.
Than just what the standard would be.
Because nowadays, if they were doing this nowadays, if they were doing anthology comics like this, you get a comic with 4 13-page stories in it. You're not getting 4 standalone stories.
Right.
You're getting part 1 of like 16 other installments. So it's completely different. If anthology comics nowadays were like this, I'd totally be picking up anthology comics, knowing that I'm going into something that is going to be done in 13 pages. It's going to be ridiculous. The quickness in which they wrap up the story and stuff. If you're going into it, this is what you're expecting. They can be really, really quite enjoyable.
This one was fun. It was full, but it was fun. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this story?
You folks that don't have it, go out and get it and read it. It was cool.
Heck yeah. This is so far. And since Ed and I have read the second story as well, because that's what we're going to hear in a bit. We're going to start recording the episode talking about the second story. Just based on those 2 stories, this issue was worth the price of admission.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, let's wrap this show up. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show today. I hope you had as much fun as I had and as much fun as Ed had. You can reach out to us if you want to. You can leave your comments there on the YouTube. You can send us an email, supermansupershow@gmail.com. All that stuff's going to be in the show notes, where you can find Ed online, where you can find me online. It's all in the show notes. So I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it. So until next week, folks, I'm Steven. That's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao.
And I'm finished recording. I'm going to save this real quick. And then, brother, got to pee.
Yeah, I got to get up too. The wife came back early from her exploits today. I got to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
So what is this? This is episode 70? 69. Okay.
Turn the keyboard on.
69. Thave.
All right. I'm going to go hit the restroom.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'll be back in a sec too.
Step outside for a moment and see if I see a cat. And then, yeah, we'll be back, folks.
Yes, on the stick. South Carolina. It's supposed to be on ESPN, the Clemson's on ESPN. There's 3 ESPNs and they none of them out there. So I came over to the stick.
So this is plus. This is not plus. And then what were you saying? Either we watch WVU or we watch the pay-per-view?
Right, they're using 8 o'clock, so they're DVR. If they win, we'll watch it.
The Pens play today also.
Well, we can DVR too while we're watching.
Well, I don't think the Pens are on.
No.
I don't think the Pens are broadcast. So this will be an opportunity to see if we can go to their app
We'll watch it later.
and see a recorded version of the game. I don't know if they do that. I don't know why not, but that'll be the last question as to if this is worth using this app.
Yeah.
Because it's if I'm going to cancel it, I need to cancel it by the end of the month. If we don't think we're going to.
How much is it?
18 a month, 19 a month, something like that. 18, I think, 17, and one of the reasons I got it is you can cancel it anytime. So you can essentially pay for it a month at a time. And I figure, we'll keep it maybe through the season, and then if they don't make the playoffs, there's no, there's no reason to keep it. They do the baseball, but we don't do that. They don't do the Steelers, which is interesting. They do 2 majors, so, yeah. Okay. All right, maybe I'll be in here trying to finish this up. Now it's not so lonely, Doug. One of us is back, man. All right, let's see if everything did what it was supposed to.
Still no cat. Doug was lonely. And then we came back.
Yep. So 69. Okay, it is there. Cool beans. I can close this and start recording again. Test, check. This what do.
Check it. Check 1, 2. Hey, Manny's not in your room, is he?
Yay!
Open up the curtain and look at the window.
We back, Doug. We back. Yay! All right.
I mean, I've closed the window, of course, but it was open this morning, and he's the only cat I haven't been able to account for. Well, I mean, I popped my head in a couple of times, and he didn't seem to be in there. I just kind of hoping that maybe he's just somewhere asleep. And if he is outside, maybe by the end of the day, he'll show up on the porch. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Okay, folks, we're back. We're going to record one more episode. And
yep, my Audacity's going, so
mine is too. Ed's taking charge of this one, so whenever you're ready.
I'm good to go. And I don't need to go up here and say that recorded before a live audience, right?
No, I'll stick that. When I did it, I'll just stick it in front of both episodes.
All right. Let's see. All right. Howdy, folks. You're listening to the Superman Super Show episode 70. Joe Gatson, Racketeer. That's the name of the episode, by the way.
Yeah, it's a really bad title.
Howdy and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm one host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left, which is this way. Oh, pointing at the Superman there, is another host, Mr. Steeven. Or Steeven, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Don't know why I said it that way.
Hey, it's you're what is it? You're doing this you're coming up with this as you go along, or something like that.
That's right. I'm making it up as I go along.
Right there we go.
I wonder if I can switch the two of us. Because when I say to my right,
oh yeah, it's
I'm pointing in the wrong direction. According,
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's it. Okay, so I am really excited musically right now because for the first time in 5 years, my favorite group is getting ready to come out with another album. Now, the group is Spyro Gyra. Steeven, are you familiar with Spyro Gyra?
I've heard the name, and I bet if you've told me some of their hits, I'd know them, but I've never owned any of their music.
Okay. Okay. If you want to hear their hits, all you have to do is turn on the Weather Channel.
Okay.
or go to a large department store and ride an elevator. And I say that because they're a fusion group, and a lot of their earlier music, they don't do it too much now, but a lot of their earlier music has been converted to Muzak. So a lot of the songs that you will hear for those places that still do Muzak, I think a lot of them maybe have even gone to streaming music and stuff like that off of Spotify or whatever. But back in the Muzak days, Spyro Gyra hits were everywhere. They've been around since 1977, so they have a lot of fusiony jazz hits. Their previous album was called Vinyl Tap. A little play on words there. came out in 2019. Now, this is an anniversary year, so they're getting ready to release an album entitled Jubilee that is going to be a double CD album, which in vinyl, I don't know how that equates. But it's a double CD nonetheless. And they are picking their favorite hits from 1977 through 1987, which it's always cool for these groups that have been around a long, long time, because they always have a lot of crap to pull from when they compile. So that's supposed to be out early next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like I say, no new stuff, which this isn't going to be new, but maybe they'll throw in one or two new songs, or songs that they haven't released yet anyways. I don't know how new they might be. But they haven't had an album out at all since 2019. So 5 years is a long time to just recycle the stuff that you've heard before. So maybe there'll be something new. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Any musical highlights for you currently?
I've been listening to a lot of the Beastie Boys lately, specifically their 1992 album, Check Your Head. I was a big, of course, when the first album came out, before everybody kind of realized it was a joke. I think I was in junior high.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed it. It wasn't until years later that I owned their second album, Paul's Boutique. But when Check Your Head came out in 92, I bought that tape and I listened to it all the time. It's one of those, it's on my list, a short list of albums that I consider to be perfect albums, because I can listen to it from song one to the end without feeling any need to skip through anything.
Okay. Now, real quick, you threw out a word there that some of the young folks might not be familiar with. Should we take a moment and explain to people what a tape is?
Tape cassette, yeah.
A cassette tape, yeah.
Billy D just arrived. Hey, yo, what's up, Billy D? Tape cassettes were about this big.
And you always, if you used cassette tapes, you always needed to have a pencil with you. And those folks that are familiar with cassette tapes absolutely know why you needed a pencil.
Yep. Beastie Boys, yes, Billy, Beastie Boys are the ace. But Check Your Head, yeah, for some reason it's like I have a playlist that I've created that's Beastie Boys chronologically, and it's every song off every album, from the top of License to Ill to the last song on Hot Sauce Committee Part 2. Billy's seen them live. I've never got a chance to see Beastie Boys live. And if I would have had the chance, it would have been when they were probably touring during their further Check the Head album, because they did a lot of clubs at that point, because that was kind of their comeback. Their second album, which is looked at as just a freaking classic now, was a huge flop. And Check Your Head, though, I can't listen to it and not just remember. I just feel like I'm back in the 90s when I listen to that. Beyond that, I was recently introduced to a band by an old friend of mine. I think I was in a really bad mood and we were talking on Facebook, and I was just talking about how crap things can be sometimes. And he was like, yeah, here, check this out. You'll probably like this. And it was a song called We Got the Moves by a band called Electric Callboy. And they are like just a freaking heavy hardcore / dance pop club beats type of group. And they're from Germany. Billy saw the Beastie Boys in FDA Park in Philly in 94. So that would have been after Ill Communication. Would that have been while they were touring off at Ill Communication, I'm assuming? But yeah, Electric Callboy, I've been getting into them. And then there's this group called Lawrence, made up of
saw them at Lollapalooza. Cool.
Oh, Lollapalooza. Never been to a Lollapalooza, which seems really weird for me, because those were happening back in my heyday when I went to a lot of concerts. But I don't know why I never went to a Lollapalooza. But yeah, there's a band, a pair of siblings, a brother and a sister, and their last name is Lawrence, and so they have a band called Lawrence, and they're youngsters, but I really dig them. And two of their songs that kind of got me hooked on them, I ran into them on like Instagram. They call them acoustic-ish versions of these two songs. And they just yesterday found out that they put out an acoustic-ish album with both of those songs on them. And so I'm really excited about that, because
Cool.
I was telling my wife, I said, it gives me hope for the future. It's Billy D hearsay. Smashing Pumpkins was there. George Clinton and Bootsy Collins. But told my wife, I said, it gives me hope for the future to know that not only are there still, because this band, Lawrence, they are just hugely talented. And you'd probably call them pop, but they're kind of like a pop soul
right
type of vibe. And I told her, I said, seeing youngsters, these young people these days, not only still playing instruments and being so talented, but making good music makes me feel good about the future.
Cool.
But yeah, that's what and then of course,
well, yes,
my third favorite band, or my second favorite band of all time, Kiss.
And I actually can make a connection to Kiss, because Terry and I have another podcast, and for that podcast we watch Dancing with the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
This week, as we are recording this, Monday and Tuesday, they showed 2 episodes of the show because they didn't have one the previous week. The second episode was focused on hair metal bands. That was the music for the dances. The guest judge for the hair metal bands episode was Gene Simmons.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. He's a media whore.
So there he was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So there's a quick connection to Kiss. Yeah.
Gene, his book was the first of their books that I read and did not like. Gene used to be one of my favorites, and then I read his book, and I'm like, he's kind of an asshole. It's like most of the book is just about the random women that you slept with, not like stars, not like, and then slept, because he dated Diana Ross for a while and stuff like that. But just like, then there was this girl in Iowa after, and I don't really care, Gene. I really don't care about that. I want to know about the band.
He's not, as far as personalities go, he's not the classiest personality.
No, but he embraces it. I mean, he doesn't. Mm-hmm. He is who he is. Billy D, Tribe Called Quest. Oh my God, that was back in the day when I was watching a lot of Yo MTV Raps. I remember Tribe Called Quest had the song Scenario that I was really into, but I really didn't start really getting into Tribe Called Quest until like the last couple of years. This is a shame. Should have been listening to them a lot back in the day. And that was Music Corner with Ed and Steeven.
All right. That is our musical banter for this episode. So now let's turn our focus to Superman, because today we're looking at Joe Gatson, Racketeer, which is the second Superman story to appear in Superman #9. Written for us by Jerry Siegel and arted for us by Paul Cassidy. Now, Superman #9 has a cover date of March-April 1941 with an on-sale date of January 3rd, 1941. And that information comes to us from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Here we go.
That's a Tribe Called Quest reference. And to counter Billy says, "Here we go, yo," which is from Scenario. To counter Billy, I'll just ask, can I kick it?
Okay, the show notes slightly confuse me because
what did I do?
Now we have Superman 9 has it together. Writer Jerry Siegel, artist Jack Burnley.
Nope. Yeah, I did not update that. That should be. I think it's the same.
Paul Cassidy.
I'd go look.
I thought the art looked like Cassidy's when I read.
I think it is. Let me just go verify real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, which is a wonderful website. Mike'sAmazingWorld.com. Mike passed away recently, which was very sad, but his website lives on and it has a lot of great information. Jerry Siegel and Paul Cassidy.
Okay, I see what happened here too. This is a rehash. So let's
I do a lot of copying, pasting, and if I forget, then
That's
yeah.
not a problem. All right. So, okay, today we're looking at, now we can delete all that stuff. Yeah. Today we're looking at Joe Gatson, Racketeer, which is, and I have to say it that way, guys, for you listening, because it's Gatson. And of course, my impulse is to pronounce that Gaston, because that's just easier to do. But that's not the name. The name is Gatson. So
can I break in real quick? Because when I attributed the comment, "Here we go, yo," to Billy D, but it was actually Doug. Doug said,
okay. I got you.
So Doug, to you, can I kick it?
So today we're looking at Joe Gatson, Racketeer, which is the second Superman story to appear in Superman number 9. And that comes to us from writer Jerry Siegel and artist Paul Cassidy. And so for those of you that don't have the book handy, here, which we haven't mentioned, but we are, or at least I am, I think Steeven is also, reading these from the Superman in the Golden Age Omnibus, I believe is the official title of the book.
Yes. And in fact, if you're listening, when you start listening to the show, you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, for example, the podcast art that will show up for the individual episodes, I've updated them to show the art from the volume in which.
Okay, cool beans.
I think they look pretty neat.
All right, so we see that Racketeer Joe Gatson is facing trial on criminal charges. Judge Crane, who's presiding over the case, leaves the courtroom and nearly commits suicide. Superman stops him and learns that the judge's daughter, Sylvia, has been kidnapped by Gatson's men. Superman traces the men to a shack in the swamp. He rescues the girl, but the men escape to warn Gatson. The Racketeer confronts the judge at his house and waits for Superman to return with Sylvia. When he does, Gatson orders the girl killed, but Superman throws Gatson himself in the path of the bullet, killing him. Gatson's henchman is caught, and Lois Lane gets the story. So that's not a bad summation. It's not 100% accurate, even in not trying to give everything away, but it's kind of jumpy. But I do want to do this because these semi-splash page narrations amuse me to no end. There's the word. So let me indulge me, guys. Everyone listening, let me read this one to you,
please.
Okay, first of all, we have the panel here of, well, just essentially Superman wrestling an alligator. That's what it is. Superman logo by the creators. Off here to the right hand side, as I'm looking at it, is some palm trees and Superman wrestling a gator.
And I'll tell you what, if he didn't wrestle a gator later in the actual story, that would have pissed me off. Because that, if nothing is going to hook you into a Superman story from panel 1, it's the idea that Superman is going to wrestle an alligator.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the narration box here, the narrator tells us, bulwark of man's civilization is his court of law, where criminals are righted and... Okay, let's try that again. Bulwark of man's civilization is his court of law, where wrongs are righted and criminals punished according to their merits. But when evildoers seek to inject their villainous methods directly into the courtroom, Superman, super strong champion of justice, steps in to teach the criminal horde respect for law and order.
That's the face you have to make listening to that.
Oh, and I see someone standing holding a stand-up, one of those big stand-up mics on their little stage for their radio show, speaking that into the microphone. I mean, that is very
man's civilization.
Yeah, that is very 40s radio kind of. And that from the very beginning, that's always what's gotten me is there are always aspects in these stories that I hear someone on a radio show do, whether it's the narrator or some actor saying something, some speech or I like that. Nowadays I read stuff and I'm like, there is nobody in their right mind that would ever say that. What is that? But here I hear a radio show a lot of times as I read these stories. Very, very fun. Very fun.
Yeah. And I don't know when these opening panels started in these Superman and Action Comics issues, but it's been a number of issues. And I really like them because they are this, not so much as the last one. Like the last one basically was like the solicitation for the issue.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of give you this is buckle up, folks, because this is what's going to, this is what you're going to get. It was like a little trailer. And you're kind of getting this here. I like this one. I totally agree that I can see somebody in their suit and tie, standing in front of that microphone and saying weird. This, with the thing in their ear, bulwark of man's civilization,
Yep.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
All right. So the story, the narrator continues and tells us Lois Lane and Clark Kent, reporters on the crusading Daily Planet. Apparently that's what the paper is being called today. Metropolis, leading newspaper, hurry toward criminal court. And that's where the art picks up. They're in the court here. We see that they are, I believe they have a meeting. Well, first I thought they were in the courtroom, it looks like. But
yeah, I think they're just there to cover the trial, aren't they? And then the judge is late. So
they he finally comes in and he rushes through everything. So automatically Lois and Clark see that is different. But then the demeanor of the judge, Clark in particular, takes notice of that. And that triggers the newspaper, news hound sniffing story kind of aspect of Clark.
Yep.
He and Lois stand up and they're going to go pursue the judge because the judge just comes in, rushes through the proceedings, and then rushes out. And they're going to get up and see if they can have a word with him real quick. But somebody rushes into the guy that the hearing was about, who we find out is it is Gatson. Yeah. That is the dude who's named Joe, I think they kept telling us.
Yeah.
Joe Gatson. He's some ne'er-do-well, and he's in the court. He sees Clark and Lois, and as they are attempting to exit, he confronts Clark because Clark has been, just insulting. I thought he had some kind of crack about, making all those smart cracks about me. And even Lois warned him. She's like, Gatson, he notices you're here. I wonder if he's going to say anything about the articles you've been doing about him.
Clark, according to Clark, he called him a beetle-browed moron.
Yes,
one of the articles.
Yeah, that's pretty harsh words. So he confronts Clark.
Yeah, and we not only get an A, we get a C because he goes, "You're Clark Kent, A." And then when he pushes him in the face, which is a callback, I feel, to Action Comics #1, where the gangster threatens to push Clark's face in.
Okay.
He pushes him in the face and he says, "Well, you'd better lock that typewriter of yours, see?" Which is how gangsters talk back then.
Absolutely. All the time. Yeah. Not sure what kind of accent he had, but he had an accent when he said that. There's one of several accents.
Yeah, it's 40s gangster. It's, so you're Clark Kent, eh? You better stop saying these things about me, see? Or I'm going to take you down, see? I'm going to fill your belly full of lead, see?
Who is that? Jimmy Cagney that did that in the movies? That, yeah. So Doug tells us here that the criminal hordes really need to respect law and order. Well, according to the first narration here in the story, absolutely. There's a sore lack of that kind of respect in 1941.
Yeah, but if you're a criminal horde, your job description is not to respect law and order. That's really what you're out to do. That's your goal, to not respect it. So, they wouldn't be doing their job.
Kind of in the description. If you're going to be one of them, then this is how you have to act. So, once again, Lois belittles Clark about not doing anything, not protecting himself, not fighting back, not doing anything, letting this thug push him, shove him in the face.
Yeah, and she stands off to the side as he's doing it, and she says, "Hit him, Clark," which I love. That she wants to see them just fisticuffs.
She's very bloodthirsty, and she wants to be excited by Clark because he fights back. She is desperate for that, but she never gets that up to this point. Never gets that from him. But that's the way it's like there is one thing on her list left in order for her to be a Clark convert, and that's to see him fight back. And that'll cinch everything. He has everything else, but this one attribute, and she cannot get him to do that. So it's just it stays that there's this one hang up I have about Clark Kent, and it keeps going and keeps going.
And I'm fairly certain that is not the first time we've seen her say that. Hit him, Clark.
Oh yeah, no, that's. Which is another one of the things we could have been keeping track on if we had thought about it. But it comes up every 2 or 3 stories.
Yeah. It's like she's super excited about the idea of Clark just fighting back.
Yes.
And then when he doesn't, that's when she's like, I can stand just so much of your cowardice and no more. And then she leaves.
All he has to do to finally win her over is punch somebody in the face. Lois is his forever. That's all. Okay, so Clark continues his worrying and his wanting to find out what's going on with the judge. So he rushes into a restroom and changes to Superman. Climbs up the side of the building. I guess the judge's chambers. It almost looks like they're in a different building or something like that. Is the way I think. But if not, then he has changed. He's gone outside of that same building and he's scaling the building. Number 1, hanging on the eave, looking in the judge's chambers. Now that's the first one. Yeah, we haven't had one in since our comeback, we haven't had one. We finished up the last round with several.
So it feels like it's been over a year since we've seen him do this.
It feels exactly like that. Yeah. Yep.
But I love the narration of him climbing up the side of the building, stepping through the windows. Superman swarms up the side of the courthouse like a startled anthropoid.
Like a monkey. I mean, is that what they're trying to say? Like a startled monkey, but you can't say monkey. So he says anthropoid. I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look up what anthropoid is.
The kids in 1941 were just so much smarter than kids their age are now, I think, because in this kind of book nowadays, I don't think they're going to drop the word anthropoid. So he is. So did you find it?
Well, there's a film called Anthropoid, and I can't get past that.
Oh no, no. Anthropoid's a word, definitely.
For definition.
Yeah, I definitely have run across the word before, but I don't.
Resembling a human being in form. Cartoons of anthropoid frogs.
Yeah, see, I would say that what they're trying to allude to is he's scaling the building like a monkey.
Yeah. Another definition is any of a suborder of higher primates. So yeah.
So, okay. So looking in, he sees that the judge has taken out a pistol. He's loaded it, clicked it. They even make a notation that you almost feel like he has checked the chamber and then he's flicked it to close the chamber. Raises it to his head and he's about to pull the trigger, in essence killing himself. Superman rushes in. I'm surprised, Judge, a man of your caliber stooping to suicide. Why did you do it? And here we find out the crux of the story is going to be this. My daughter Sylvia kidnapped. I've been instructed to either free Gatson or I'd never see her again. We've never heard that story before, right? I mean, that's,
it's like this got dark real quick.
Starting with the judge not knowing anything else to do, but he's going to kill himself.
Like today on a very special episode of Superman.
So they talk back and forth a little bit. Find out that he's got a couple days before he has to free Gatson. They've given him kind of a time limit. And then as they're there, the judge receives another phone call that is, let's see, what is it? Get this, which is kind of akin to your get this. Definitely release Gatson tomorrow or we'll kill your daughter. Now, as far as the phone call, this is a clue that at first you think is just thrown in, but it does play a part with the way that they write the story moving forward. The image, the panel before the judge actually taking the call is an operator. And we see the sign that the operator must work for the municipal criminal district because that's on a sign in the back. And it is, I believe it's a female operator. It doesn't really matter the gender. The figure looks kind of weird to me. Judge Crane speaking. This is a long distance, or the question, Judge Crane speaking, because it's from their point of view. This is a long distance call from Lakeland. And then we switch over the panel to the judge actually talking on the call. So that, again, it seems innocuous, but it will play a part with the way that the story goes later on.
Yeah, I found that confusing until I really, started to think about how the whole operator switchboard things works. So I'm assuming the call comes in, the switchboard operator here at the municipal court building answers it. She rings the judge and says, "Hey, is this the judge? I've got a long distance call for you." And so then when we get to that second panel, she's pulled one of those plugs and moved it around. And now he's actually speaking to the kidnappers. Because the first time I read it, I thought whoever this person is, that's the one that's like, get this.
This person here. But So I guess they didn't have routing like we do now. So it all comes into a central place back then. Yeah. And that's why you have all the cords. You actually make a connection to whatever phone it is in the building. Yeah. So you get the call and then you route it.
The house that I'm living in right now used to be the switchboard for the town. So where I'm sitting, there used to be one of those. And my great grandmother was the one sitting there.
Did you find any equipment or anything when you first moved in? Of that
no, it's actually down in our town museum.
Cool. So, it got moved out before you moved into the house.
Oh yeah,
it had already. Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of
cool. After, because my great grandma lived here. She was the switchboard operator, and so this house was owned by the phone company. But then when they stopped using a switchboard, she just bought the house.
Oh, okay.
And
so she was the equivalent of Mayberry's Sarah.
Exactly.
Right. I got you.
People would, I need Klondike 657, please. Yeah.
Plug it into whichever of them. Yeah. Okay. Cool beans. Okay. So now there is one thing here coming up that totally confused me. I don't understand what the point was, but the judge takes the call and then he gets the final warning, and he and Soups here have their final conversation about what is needed as far as Gatson and the judge's daughter and Superman. Superman leaves to enact his plan, and after he has left, the weapon accidentally fires. That's what the narrator tells us, and the panel is of the weapon in the dude's hand. As Superman springs away, a crowd spills into the room led by the bailiff. "Are you all right, Judge Crane?" "Quite all right, bailiff. The gun went off accidentally."
Yeah. I was waiting for that to come back at some point. It never does.
No, I don't know. I mean,
we need to fill 2 panels here. What can we do?
That was just weird. We see Superman in the next panel doing something. I don't know what he's doing.
He's running across.
He's running on the phone lines.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, that's.
Okay. Yeah, that's that, and that confused me at first too, because he's running along either power lines or phone lines, and he's saying now to trace that long distance call to its source. So I thought, are we going to get a new superpower? Is he going to be able to hear or follow like the residual energy from the call?
He's following the line. Where does the line go? It goes,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm afraid it doesn't. Even back then, it doesn't work that way. But okay. So next, shortly after Superman clambers, okay, up the side of the telephone building. So he has traced the phone lines to the phone building. And then he just picks a ledge to hang on to see, and it turns out to be an engineer. I don't necessarily know why this particular dude, but we have the second hanging on a ledge here as he looks in on a phone engineer, opens the window, climbs in, says, "Don't be alarmed. I just want to ask you a few questions." Well, somebody climbing up the side of my building, coming into my window, my street side window from outside, is going to scare the poo out of me. I mean, it's not a common thing that I'm going to run into in 1941. Yeah. So we've already put together that most people don't even know that Superman exists, apparently. So you wouldn't. There's nothing that you would expect to see that. It's like that's totally weird. And then he comes in and he's dressed in this, bright blue and red outfit with the shield and all that.
Well, but he does recognize Superman, but it's not until Superman gets into the room and sits down next to him at the desk.
Right. Now that I can focus, I see, it's Superman. Nothing else told him it was Superman until he sat down and had a chance to, really look at him and see. And the Kryptonian symbol for hope there must have been what the key was that put him over the edge.
Yeah.
So he talks to the engineer and asks the engineer. The engineer is knowledgeable about phones and the way routing occurs. And so Superman is trying to get a clue as to how I can track down this phone call. So the engineer does some checking around. He says the call came from San Colombo, which is not what really the judge thought. And that one panel, it's not what we were led to believe either, because until you take a second and realize that was an operator, which that's not necessarily clear, you think it came from that person who is in the same building as the judge because the sign on the wall. But now we're finding out, no, it came from San Colombo to this person. This person must have been an operator, routed it to the judge. So now Soups is like, okay, well, then I need to go to San Colombo somehow and try to figure out in the next 24 hours, because that's now how much time the judge has, to find the daughter and stop this and do whatever, save the daughter, basically, because the judge is not going to let this dude go, even though he even tried to kill himself instead of. But later, when the Man of Steel returns to the Daily Planet, his identity is Clark Kent.
But the engineer calls the operator in San Colombo at this point. And the operator at San Colombo tells him that they did not put any calls through to Metropolis. And
that's
so
right. Okay.
The guy's like, well, I don't know how to explain it. It came from San Colombo, and yet it didn't at the same time. And Clark's like, Superman's like, I can't answer that, and jumps out the window.
and that's the panel. It looks like he is falling out of the window.
Yeah.
He just, he's not going feet first so that he can land. No, he just dove out the window, and we see him just falling. Yeah. So he and Lois are talking. He's bouncing some ideas off of Lois, and she tells him that something strange has happened because Sylvia Crane, who is the judge's daughter, was to be the guest of honor at a luncheon today, and she didn't show. So now people are starting to realize that something's up with the daughter because she's not meeting her obligations, her social obligations. I'll give you credit for one thing, Lois, an active imagination, but that's all you're doing, imagining things, he says. It's like, I can't imagine that she imagined that the girl wasn't there. Either she was or she wasn't.
Yeah, but it's like he can't let her know that he knows she's been kidnapped.
And anything is going on. So hanging out there in the office, he happens to look outside and he sees a lineman messing with the phone circuit. And
is it a lineman for the county?
I don't know.
It's a song reference. I just can't remember what song.
Oh no,
He was a lineman for the county. I don't know. Do you remember what song that is?
I don't know if I know that.
It's an old country song, I think.
So it gives him an idea to help. He's starting to put things together now about switching and the calls, and they're coming from somewhere but not coming from somewhere. And so this earbud is messing with me. He sees the lineman, and I think it gives him an idea about how maybe they were able to do this call without it actually coming from the place it supposedly came from. So he switches to Superman, and using his X-ray vision, he traces the cable underground now. So instead of running along the lines on the poles, he's tracing it with his vision underground, looking for a place where it could have been potentially cut or broken to give someone access to the lines. And he knows that, well, underground, that's not really going to happen because it's in lead pipe or it's in metal pipe, whatever. So it's not easy to do there. So I need to trace the line to somewhere where it comes out of underground and it's above ground to give someone potentially easier access to it. So he's zipping along and he finds a cable box attached to a pole and sees that the cable box has been messed with, the phone box, phone cable. And as he starts to investigate, he hears somebody coming. So he hides, and somebody comes up and notices that the door has been messed with, which is the door Superman was just at. And the guy opens and reaches in, and I don't think that this is necessarily how it worked. There would be a box with an actual open phone receiver attached to it. But the guy opens the box and picks up the receiver and says, "Judge Crane, this is your last warning. Either set Gatson free tomorrow morning or you get your daughter's body in the afternoon." Still, the story overall is still staying pretty dark. We've had a little bit of lightness meeting with Lois and meeting with the engineer, but I mean, we're staying with that. Well, here's the judge, his daughter's kidnapped. It's so bad he tried to kill himself. They say they're going to kill the girl, and they keep pushing that, which I understand that's the story. But after the story we just saw beforehand, which even though it had to do with foreign agents of a foreign power, it was more intense action kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a darker mystery kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
What a lucky break, Superman thinks. My hunch was correct, and these men are directly involved in the kidnapping. So now he has a lead he can definitely work with. He's going to follow the dude. The dude just came up and made a threat to the judge, so obviously he's involved. Superman's going to follow the dude. Does it tell us where? Later, Superman soars over a swamp. So he traces the line to the edge of a swamp, and that's where it pops up from underground. Around the swamp, I would think even more so you want to run it underground rather than running it above ground in the swamp. But so that's where it is. As he's tracking the dude, he sees they jump into a boat, maybe some kind of swamp buggy, and they're going to go somewhere in the swamp, and that's where their hideout is. So as Superman tries to follow him, first he succumbs to quicksand, and then as he is trying to get out of quicksand, he is noticed by and attacked by an alligator. So here, 3 panels are the scene of Superman wrestling an alligator.
A purple alligator.
Mine is kind of a reddish brownish kind of color.
Yeah, I'm colorblind when it comes to reds
brown
and greens. So yeah.
So okay, yeah. So a reddish brown might look kind of purplish to you.
Yeah, because it looks straight up like a great.
Oh, okay.
Grape crocodile, grape alligator.
Hey, we can go with that. The purple alligator. I mean, if they can make a cartoon about a great grape ape, why can't they have a grape alligator? It's 3 panels. Superman stuck in the quicksand. The alligator mouth agape, approaching him. Second panel, he grabs up the alligator and they're kind of wrestling. It's drawn like they're wrestling in a lake, but we have to keep in mind that he's in quicksand. Although nothing really looks like quicksand. It always looks like he's just in standing water, but it's quicksand, so we're told. Wrestle. A quick flip of his wrists, and the huge creature goes sailing aloft. So he flings the alligator, and that's what the panel is. You see him flinging the alligator, and the alligator flying through the air away from him.
Poor alligator. I mean, the alligator is not going to hurt Superman. There was no reason for him to throw. I mean, alligators freak me out. I have a fear of alligators and crocodiles. I never want to meet one, without a big fence between us. But the alligator was not going to hurt him. If anything, it was just being a nuisance while he was trying to get free. So I can only hope that the alligator landed safely in another body of water further down the swamp, and then he was just like, well, all right, I guess I will go find something else to eat, and swam away.
Yeah, hopefully he didn't end up as a bag and a pair of shoes and a belt.
It hit the ground as a bag and
all those things.
Yeah.
Terrific effort. Then Superman leaps free of the quicksand's grip. Now to continue the chase. So he hops off.
You had said that this story so far has been kind of a suspense mystery. And so this is all right, we gotta get some action in here real quick. So
we gotta
he's in a
something.
swamp. Two things that are going to happen to a guy in a swamp. He's going to get stuck in some quicksand, and he's going to encounter an alligator. So let's just do both in the span of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels.
Yeah. One page, basically.
Yeah.
He sees the guys, tries to follow up, falls prey to quicksand, falls prey to the alligator. He has to take care of both.
Yeah.
He has to survive both, in essence. And all of this
with
on
just a flick of the wrist. He's like, oh, I'm stuck in quicksand. Well, I can get out. I'm Superman. Oh, it's it's an alligator. The alligator is now in the air. So now I can continue on with my chase.
I can jump. And this is something, if he jumps, if that's the way he propels himself, how does he jump out of quicksand? Because theoretically there isn't an immediate bottom for him to launch it, unless he goes completely under and then jumps.
While Superman cannot fly, he is able to grab particles of the air and pull himself along. He causes little bits of air around him to become so dense that he can use them as a launching pad.
He does locate the men, which, who knows? I guess all of this is just very, very short order. So really, he might not even have lost sight of the men, but they were far enough away that all of this struggle and commotion they didn't hear, because they don't know that they're being followed.
Oh yeah, you would hear I keep saying crocodile, but you would hear an alligator flying through the air,
splashing and doing and it's So obviously, also, I guess when he threw the alligator, he threw it in the opposite direction of the men because they would have heard it land. So
like, holy crap, an alligator just fell out of the sky.
Now, see, that would have been shoes and belt and a bag and all that in the boat there. Locates the men. They go to a shack. He goes up to a shack, and using his X-ray vision, which they don't tell us, but actually they just draw it. So I kind of like that, because in the previous story, every time they told us using the X-ray, using microscope, and it's like, here he's standing. You have wall of shack, and you have beams and a targety place on the shack. I do know. I remember in a previous story they even went so far as to not draw the wall, and there was like a hole in the wall that he was looking through, kind of. So that was cool. But here, you see him using his power rather than being told he's using it. I'm always a fan of that. Don't tell me, show me.
That's what, anytime anybody is telling you how to write, one of the things they always say is show, don't tell.
Right. Unless, of course, you're Chris Claremont, and then you have to tell everything.
Sometimes you have to tell.
Sometimes, So now we switch inside and we see that Sylvia, she's getting a little mouthy with the bad guys. She's kind of peppery, kind of fiery here, even though she may not know where she is. If she were to escape, she may not know how to get out, where to go, or anything. But still, I don't appreciate it, and I'm going to talk some smack. And so that's what she does. And even to the extent that one of the dudes jumped up and he's going to sock her in the jaw, but Superman breaks through the wall and distracts him before he can do that. So I think it's kind of funny that she can push a tough far enough that he's going to hit, because in here with her for, I don't know, a day or 2 days or whatever. And it's like, well, she hasn't pushed him that far yet, but this is too far. What does she say? I'll remember your faces. So he's going to knock her out so she doesn't remember their faces.
What?
Yeah.
That's what he says. And that's Superman. He says, that's my clue. But really he's saying, oh, hell no.
You're not going to hit her. Jumps in. The one bad guy draws a pistol and shoots him. The other bad guy draws his also in the next panel, and we have multiple shots. Superman runs up and grabs the gun. Okay. A couple things happen here back to back. They don't know who this is either. They never drop his name. Yeah. So he runs in. They realize that their bullets aren't doing anything to him. But then he takes the guns and he throws them clear through the wall of the shack. And that impresses them. They didn't cotton into that the bullets are bouncing off of him. They say, oh, you're wearing a bulletproof vest, which is something that was said in the previous story too. So that's explainable. You must be wearing a bulletproof vest. That's why the bullets aren't doing it. But being able to throw those guns completely through the wall, now that's weird. And that's what gets their attention. Now let's see if you're as thick-skulled as I think you are, as he rushes up to the one bad guy who now doesn't have a gun, so he draws a knife. Second story in a row where we've seen guns not work and the bad guys grab knives. So I guess all bad guys in 1941 carry both guns and knives. If one doesn't work, they resort to the other.
Yeah, and it makes sense here, because my first thought was, you just shot the man and you watch the bullets bounce off of him. Why are you going to try your knife? But they point out that the guy tries to plunge the knife into Superman's side. So if they truly think he's wearing a bulletproof vest, that's where you would go with the knife. So it makes sense. I think they did a good job there.
The side or the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
As the kidnapper plunges the knife against the Man of Steel's side, it breaks with a sharp tinkle. Maybe they could have picked a better word. I don't know.
Right.
Tinkle. Okay. That's what the narrator tells us.
Yeah.
And we see the bad guy looking at his hand, presumably at the knife, and says, it broke. Superman says, let that be a lesson to you. And the other guy's, I'm getting out of here. And he tries to jump through the window, and Superman grabs him. The dude is holding onto the window frame, and as Superman pulls him back in, it rips the frame completely off the wall. So the guy is holding the frame there in his hand.
Guy's suit is almost the same color as the wall.
Yes. Yep. They almost blend in there.
Yeah.
Seizing the two, Superman binds them together back to back with a clothes rack, which struck me as weird because it's clothesline is what I see. Clothes rack. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the clothes rack had a different meaning than what I assume it does now, but he ties them up with what looks like rope or wire.
Yeah. Maybe, like the Marvel method where the artist draws out the pages and then the guy comes back in and does the script. Maybe he was like, where did the rope come from? Oh, it's a clothesline, but he didn't know. I don't know. He wrote clothes rack.
Yeah. I'm not sure. So he ties the two bad guys up, grabs up the girl, rescues her, unties her, jumps off. jumps off doing the carrying her like he does Lois. He has a couple times. Don't put me down. Put me down. This is the girl, and Superman responds, "Quiet. You won't be harmed." And he thinks, "I'll give Lois credit for one thing. These breathtaking leaps never drove her to hysterics."
That's right. Lois
And then
is a strong woman.
He looks at her in his arms and says, "She's fainted. It's just as well. The poor girl has been under a terrible strain." So now her behavior is explainable. Before, she was going into hysterics.
Yep.
So cut back to the two guys, and they're fussing and fighting. They got to try to break loose to warn the boss, because they still don't say Superman, do they? No, somebody rescued the girl and took her, and they're presuming that they're going to take the girl back to the judge. So the two thugs have to tell the boss that somebody took the girl and is going back to give him the heads up. And so he calls him. We don't know if he called with the box or if he called with the whatever. Here he's just on the phone calling. Looks like he's calling from a tree. Actually, if you ask me, it looks like a tree, but I don't know.
Using the professor's coconut phone.
Yes. I can hear the song. He's right back in a team. Yeah. So he gets in touch with the boss, and the boss is like, "Oh, so she's gone, huh?" Jumps in his car, and you can tell he is definitely in a hurry because of the way the car is drawn.
Oh, yeah.
The car is drawn taking a curve, maybe on one tire, but you could make an argument for there are no tires on the ground where he makes this turn.
Yeah, it could be one, it could be two, it could be none.
Yeah.
But what does he say in the panel before he jumps into the car?
So the crane girl escaped. Yep. That's the thugs. That's the way they all talk, man. With that extra syllable, whatever that is.
I think that's 2 A's in this story and 2 of them in the previous
one. And a C in this story too.
Yeah. I really am gonna have to start making that's gonna be my hanging from a ledge.
Okay. And to catch up, you can only catch up starting with our comeback and just do last episode in this one. So So he's the bad guy. Did we ever get in? Yeah. What's his name? Joe
Gatson. That's the title of the story.
Gatson.
Joe Gatson, Racketeer.
Gatson. I got it.
Terrible name for a story.
Yeah. Well. So Gatson is speeding to presumably the judges. Does he say? He talks to the guy here. So the crane gal escaped, eh? So I guess you presume he's going to Judge Crane's office. We have actually, no, he's not going to Judge Crane's office. And we find that out here shortly. Judge Crane has gotten a police escort home because of everything that's going on. I don't think he told the officer what is going on, just that, "Hey, can you come home with me for a minute?" So he goes home, and he's here in the house with the police officer, and Gatson breaks in, pulls a gun, threatens him. But then you see the officer, Gatson doesn't say anything. But the officer pulls a gun on the judge, and we find out that he's been working for Gatson for years. That's according to the police officer. Yeah. So this is just some schmo that he thought he could trust, and it turns out that actually this dude is on Gatson's payroll.
What a jerk.
So now Gatson and this police officer are holding the judge at gunpoint at the judge's house. Lois shows up wanting to speak to the judge as a follow-up probably to all of that at the beginning of the story, where she too was kind of weirded out by the way that the judge was acting. So we have seen what Clark was doing in following up on that. And now we see what Lois is doing following up from earlier in the day on the judge's behavior. So she shows up at his house. So now the judge and Lois are being held at gunpoint by the officer, and Gatson is there. I'm sorry. Gatson hasn't pulled a gun yet. He told the officer to handle it. You watch him. And actually, he says, "You watch him. I'm going to hide here in this closet until the girl returns. And when she does, if any of you leave out a warning, peep. If
That's
any of you leave out a warning, peep. Yeah, leave out. That's strange verbiage.
Yeah, because it sounds like he's saying, you better warn them. If you leave out a warning peep, but he's obviously telling them not.
Right.
to
Don't warn
them.
the girl. Yeah. So now Superman shows up with the daughter. The police officer holds Superman at gunpoint. Now, the Gatson jumps out of the closet. Looks like he's going to grab Superman, but it's not drawn that he does. But he leaps out right behind Superman. Superman's holding the girl. Gatson tells the police officer to shoot the girl, but when he tells the officer that, Superman has put the girl down somewhere. He's not holding her anymore. So he's shooting, the police officer shooting over there somewhere, wherever the girl is. And from the time that he tells the police officer to shoot, we see the officer shoot, but Superman grabs Gatson, who is behind him, flings Gatson so that he is between the police officer and the girl, so that the bullet the police officer fired ultimately hits Gatson instead of the girl. So Superman throws Gatson as a shield to prevent the bullet from hitting the girl, but then Gatson is flying through the air and hits the officer.
Yeah, that was the weird part. This is probably this might be my favorite moment in these Superman stories so far, going back to Action Comics #1. The fact that Superman threw the bad guy into the path of a bullet, that's just amazing that he would even do that. It makes sense. I don't know. I just kind of assumed he'd knock the guy out of the way and then run into the path of the bullet. But no, he's like, I'm going to take out literally two birds with one stone.
Yep.
I'm going to save the girl and kill the bad guy at the same time. And yet somehow the bad guy bounces off the chair and flies at
I don't know.
the bailiff. I just don't get that part. That confused me.
I would almost want two things. First, my rudimentary knowledge of physics. I don't believe there's any way this dude would have survived being flung fast enough to be able to intercept the bullet.
Yeah.
He'd have been mush inside.
Yeah. So regardless if the bullet was there or not, as soon as he left Superman's hand, he was dead.
Yeah. So I guess in my mind, what happened is it's almost like Superman grabbed him by like maybe the collar, which is possible from this one panel, and then like flung him, still holding on, even though we don't see him here, holding on to the dude, flung him like a shield, and then continuing that motion, flung him at the policeman. There's just, the panel though is drawn. The girl has fallen over a chair so that you can only see her legs. So I'm not sure the bullet would have hit her anyways, but we will say that the bullet would have hit her, would have killed her. Superman flung Gatson in front of the girl. We see the chair with legs over the side of the chair. And I'm doing motions for those of you listening to the podcast. You can't see the motions, but those people that are watching live are getting the full effect of my little hand, like a kangaroo or anyways. So we see Gatson be shot by the bullet and he yells, or whatever that's supposed to be. I guess the fling. I don't know. But we have the pistol. You can kind of see a bullet flight. It's easy to assume that Gatson was hit by the bullet in that panel. Okay. There's no Superman. The only indication of who fired the gun is the pistol being held panel forward. Next panel, though, the bailiff is struck unconscious by Gatson's hurtling body, is what the narrator tells us. In that panel, an upright police officer is thrown by a Gatson flying through the air horizontally, dislodging the gun, presumably knocking him down. Next panel. Here you are. Telephone the police, but keep the bailiff covered as he tosses Lois a gun. We see a chair in the background. Perhaps that's the chair that the girl is in. We don't know because we don't see limbs or anything. So Now maybe this is a completely different angle of the room. Don't know. Superman jumps out the window. So it starts making sense. He grabs Gatson, swings him over the head. So the gangster receives the bullet meant for Sylvia Crane. So those are the two narrations. So he picked up Gatson from behind him, reached behind, whatever, got him, threw him as a shield in front of the girl. Gatson took the bullet. Okay, that would be the end of it. But no, the next panel is Gatson flying through the air, hitting the officer that shot trying to kill the girl. How he did that, I don't know.
I may have pieced it together.
Okay.
I'll see if this wins a no prize or not. We go back to the previous page. We see Superman. It looks like he's got one knee up on that chair. He's holding the girl, and I'm assuming that he's placing her into the chair at this point. And so then we have to assume that the closet is directly behind him. And so that's when the door to the closet opens, and Gatson is there behind him, and he tells the guy to shoot the girl. And so the guy is standing behind so the guy with the gun is standing behind the chair. Superman standing in front of the chair. The guy is basically aiming down, I guess, to shoot her in the chair.
Oh, okay.
Superman throws Gatson, so he just throws him forward. He throws him toward the gunman.
Yes.
The bullet hits him. He continues to fly forward, and he hits the gunman.
I can see that. Yeah, if it's Superman and Gatson on the other side of the chair and police officer firing.
Yeah.
I could see Superman throwing towards the police officer, essentially, and in such a manner that Gatson takes the bullet, and then his body continues from being flung by Superman into the police officer. Okay. I could see that now that,
And I want to point out the closet, because I notice the dumbest things sometimes in these books. I love that the closet, except for like a set of drawers, a dresser drawer or something, it's not only are there no clothes hanging in the closet, there's like one lone clothes hanger with nothing on it. Just for some reason that makes me laugh. It makes me laugh inside.
Well, and the clothes hanger is important enough that we see it in two panels. When we see the closet. So they definitely want us to know that it's a closet, and the way to do that is by drawing a hanger. That way we know. So,
and then the way he launches himself out the window, it on the one hand, it looks like he's just diving headfirst out the window.
Yes.
On the other hand, it looks like he reached out and he grabbed the windowsill while he was jumping and launches himself out the window. Yeah, by pulling himself through.
Like some kind of pommel horse move or something. Yeah.
This cat keeps sliding off my arm.
And, a lot of things, speaking for myself, a lot of things that I say will seem like I'm trying to nitpick. But I am enjoying the story, and I'm enjoying what they're doing, and I'm pointing out things that just caught my attention. Whether they can be explained or not logically really doesn't matter to me. That's what I'm trying to do, because the human brain I've worked in sciences my entire career, so logic kind of is forefront. Yes, well, I know comic books are not, and so I try to match the two together as far as it'll go. And then when they don't match up, I'm fine. That's okay.
Well, and logically, Superman would have, if he could have jumped into the path of the bullet.
Oh, easily.
Clocked the guy in the chin on the way through much faster, regardless of how fast he is. He would have expended less energy and got to that bullet faster had he just leapt forward. But he knew, okay, I'm going to kill this freaking guy.
Yep.
Because the fact that he takes that extra fraction of a second to reach behind him, grab the dude, lift him over his shoulder, and then throw him at the gunman, that just
Two birds with one fling
Yeah.
is what he did there.
That's why this may win my most favorite moment. I had to go back and look at some of the other older ones because I remember some crazy, the human javelin was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, but this, I tell you what, I was reading this this morning, and I'm enjoying the crap out of this story. The alligator was great.
Yep.
There were just certain things every once in a while I'd go, oh, all right, that's kind of fun. But when I got to this moment, I just went, okay, this just went up a level. It's so great.
To finish up the story here, after Superman left, he changed into Clark Kent, got another police officer, and came back to the judge's house to don't bother about the yarn. I've already done so thanks to Superman. I guess this is the judge sitting here. Is that who that's supposed to be?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the judge or the...
Because up here, though, the judge had a mustache and glasses and a brown suit.
That might be the bailiff that was about to shoot the girl.
Oh, that got knocked out in a blue suit. Yeah, maybe so. Okay.
Lois is covering him with the gun. And I can only assume when she says, don't bother about the yarn.
Oh, she's already called in the story.
Yeah, she's called in the story. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, a feather in your cap. This will be. Where's the telephone? Because he's going to call it in real fast.
Yeah.
And then
he's just going to go ahead and take the story from her.
Yeah. He's gonna snake the story from Lois like a typical man kind of thing. Yeah,
he walks in and goes, "Whoa, this is news. Where's the phone?" I know that you were directly involved, but I'm going to go ahead and tell this story.
She says, "I already called it in. It's covered." And the final panel, and you can even tell this by the way it's drawn. The first, the next to last panel, narration, whatever. In the bottom right, it says "the end," and then there's another panel on the page which is Superman speaking. And remember, a brand new Superman story appears every month in Action Comics magazine. Don't miss an issue. So they finish the story and they put in a little ad. Because in the book I'm reading, the next full page is the splash page for the next story from Superman 9. So if that is the way it went at the time, they squished things together a little bit here to finish the story, put in a little ad, and then go to the next story, which is you're reading Superman, but they wanted to tell you that Superman is also in Action Comics if you want to get even more.
And if we want to do a little fun preview tease here for the next 2 episodes, it looks like the title of the third Superman story is Mystery in Swayze Swamp. So another story set in a swamp, and possibly Patrick Swayze might appear.
Maybe
not spelled the same, but. And then the last one is Jackson's Murder Ring, which I would assume is a group when they mean ring, not like he has a ring that he's murdering people with.
Yeah, no, I would think a group. And we probably can assume that the leader is named Jackson. If you know. So it's his murder ring.
And I will say real quick, as I'm looking at this over here on Mike's Amazing World, I can see the cover to Superman #9. Not a big fan of the cover. Superman bursting through like a paper wall.
It's very plain. And I don't know that we have noticed. I don't think we've said so if we had noticed, but there's in the book that we're reading from, you have the cover of Superman 9. I would assume, now I haven't gone out to actually look. You're looking at the actual cover on Mike's Amazing World. So of course, the comic will have a cover. You open it up, and there's a full page splash page, supposedly, according to the omnibus that we're reading. You turn that splash page, and then there's a half page splash for the first story, and every story has that as well. So there's like the cover, and then apparently there was a full page of art, and then the story started, which I thought was different. Usually either it's ads, maybe it was an ad and they just inserted art in this volume, but it struck me as odd that there is the cover's full page, and then you open it up and there's full page, and then you turn that page and the story starts. That just struck me as odd.
Oh, can you see that?
Yes.
So that's the art page you're talking about, right?
Yeah. It's a full page of splash here, and then the story starts on the right hand side there with the.
I feel like
half
at
splash.
least in these trades, I don't know. I feel like I'll have to at some point go over to the DC app and look at the individual issue. But this page seems to show up in almost every one of the Superman issues.
Okay.
In
okay.
these
I don't
trades.
remember noticing before. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, cool. Alrighty. I don't think there's anything else that I want to add.
No, I'll just say that I'm really happy with these first two Superman stories in Superman #7. The two previous stories we talked about, Action Comics 33 and 34, they were fun. I enjoyed them, but these two Superman stories from Superman 9 so far they were just excellent fun. Crazy excellent fun.
There certainly was. There's a different in tone, or my perception of tone, between the Superman stories in action and the Superman stories in his own book.
Yeah.
I don't know. It in a way, I don't know. I certainly like the way that they have felt in his book better, like you, than his stories in the action. I won't presume to try to figure out why they feel differently. It could be entirely me. I mean, I don't know,
and I have to admit that the final panel in the story we talked about today, with him saying, and remember, there are brand new Superman stories every month in Action Comics. And while yes, that's true, but are these not brand new stories either? Granted, they're not every month, but it's still, even if you're looking at the number of Superman stories, we got 4 Superman stories in the Superman title that come out every 2 months. So it's almost like you're getting 2, just within Superman, 2 new Superman stories per month.
Right. If you average it out.
If he's just reminding us, if you enjoy these, of course, you should get Action Comics. It doesn't say Superman on the title, but it has a new Superman story in every issue every month. And so it just, for the first time I read that, I almost felt like they were trying to say, these stories in Superman aren't new. And thought,
new stories over there.
Yeah. It's like, are these coming from the newspaper strips? And I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't either. And maybe our Superman radio guy, if he still listens, can clue us in perhaps on that kind of stuff. But I think I don't feel that they are using the newspaper strips like they did way early on. I mean, it kind of felt,
Yeah, I agree. I think that especially the way that the way they're put together, I suppose they could be newspaper strips, but I do think it's more that they're just saying, look, there's this comic book on the stands that it should be obvious because Superman's always on the cover.
He's on the cover. Yeah.
But it doesn't say Superman. It's not like this one is Superman. So just be aware that if you're enjoying these, there are Superman stories every single month. Please keep giving us your dimes.
Basically, that's what it amounts to. Yeah. If you like paying for this one, pay for that one too.
Yeah. Instead of giving us just one dime every 2 months, give us an extra dime every month.
Yes. Give us one dime every month. Yeah. 1 here, 4 there.
Cat wants to get up on my lap.
Well,
but I'm
him
sitting forward right now. She can't sit on my lap.
Oh, okay. Well.
All right. Yeah. I think that's all I want to say about this.
Okay.
This story.
Alrighty, guys. We definitely want to thank you for listening. So until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steeven and his cat, excuse me. And this was the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye.
And for those of you that don't know a lot about cats, that's called a tuxedo cat, which seems becomes pretty obvious when you look at the markings on the cat. Why it's called
wearing it. Looks like
a
she's wearing
tuxedo cat. Yeah. So
Her name is Socks.
So, of course, must have white on the feet, right? If I'm going to guess. Oh, there you go. Yep, white booties.
Yep.
Call them socks. Yep.
All right. Well, once again, I had a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. These are fun.
Yeah.
I said before, I missed having a reason to motivate me to read these golden age stories because they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's amazing how, every once in a while I'll come across a story that's like, it was kind of hard to get through, even for 13 pages. But in general, most of them have been a lot of fun.
Pretty easy to get through. Yeah.
So, should we tentatively plan again for next Saturday? Get another 2 episodes?
Yeah, you want to do it one more time, and that'll give us that'll give you 6 to work up, and then start releasing. And then what we can do is take a week or 2 weeks off, whatever. Let these start coming out, and then
I think we'll do. I'll of course make sure that my schedule's open on Saturday. But yeah, if we can do next Saturday to do 2 more episodes, and then we'll shift to every other Saturday. That way we'll still stay ahead.
Okay.
But then if, for example, we got
ahead.
The holiday season coming up, if we want to say, we could get to the point where we could say, let's just take December off. We'll have plenty of episodes to do that.
Yeah.
So, but
between
we may not want to take
Thanksgiving
a full month.
and Christmas coming up.
Exactly. All right, then, folks.
Do you have any idea when you want to start releasing these? Have you thought of that yet?
Technically, I should be putting an episode of Hither Came Conan out on Wednesday, but I don't know that I'll have it ready because I still haven't read. It's The Hand of Nergal, and I haven't. I was going to read the Robert E. Howard / Lynn Carter version, and there's a Dark Horse put out like 4 issues that covered the story too, and I want to read those before I do the issue. I've already got like the show notes together for the introduction and the synopsis, but yeah, I want to read those too, and I haven't had a chance to yet. So technically I wanted to get a Hither Came Conan episode out this upcoming week and then do Superman the week after. But I don't know. I do know that once I'm ready to start posting them, I think the week before I'll put the first episode up over on the Patreon. So those folks will get it early the week before. And then so it'll go up on Patreon, and the next week it'll go out in the public. And that's just how we'll do going forward. And, but I don't know. I feel like I want to get this first Superman episode out here fairly soon. So I may just decide to hold on to Hither Came Conan for a couple of weeks, and maybe on Monday I'll put up Superman Super Show for the Patreon, and then next Monday it'll go out to the public. And so starting next Monday, every other week we'll get a Superman Super Show episode out there, because I've started editing the first episode. I just there's not a lot I need to do with these episodes. I just need to, when you or I are reading a synopsis and we want to start it over, I just need to cut that kind of junk out. But
did you see Doug's comment there?
Doug, again, we're doing this for you, buddy. You're the only one. We don't even like Superman, Doug. Superman makes us both angry.
He's such a nerd. He never fights back.
He's a dork. Yeah, he's a coward.
To be honest, Doug, I'm glad we had an opportunity to pick it back up too.
Yeah, me too.
I enjoyed it before. I've enjoyed it since now, and so it's a lot of fun.
And it's funny because these are the easiest podcast episodes I do. They just are. I don't. The only planning involved is reading the stories and copying and pasting stuff into the show notes. You know, I don't have to, I don't know. I just feel like I have to do a lot for
Yeah,
the other
it's-
episodes because I got to write synopses and stuff like that. And I love that. I love that stuff. You know, this last episode of Hither Came Conan, I put out that whole intro with all the background stuff. Like I said, I spent 6 hours on that intro. And then because it came together as it did, I'm like, I'm really glad I did that. I'm not going to do it every time.
Yeah,
but
really.
I'm glad I did it on that one. So, yeah. But at the same time, it's nice to be able to do these where I don't have to, you know, we can just talk.
Yep.
You know, we just talk about them. And if we didn't enjoy them, we wouldn't be able to talk about them, right?
Well, we wouldn't be able to take 13 pages and talk an hour about it. So
right. Or we could, it would just be really negative. And then that's not the kind of show either of us want to do.
That sucks.
So, yeah.
It sucked for the last 55 minutes, man. It sucks. Yeah.
I finished it and then I took the pages out. I read it digitally, so I printed the pages out and then I burned them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there is some fanboy out there that's done that, man. You know.
What was it I saw the other day? Somebody had posted on Instagram or Twitter or something. There's a Breakfast Club. They said, "Do not remake Breakfast Club," and I wanted to just respond, why not? I mean, unless they're going to remake Breakfast Club and then delete every copy of the original version, so you can never watch the original. Why do you care?
What? Yeah.
So they make a shitty version of the Breakfast Club. Who cares?
Don't watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's that's the option you always have. Don't watch. Yeah. Don't listen. Don't go to it. Don't just don't. I mean, if you're like the first one was better and they can't make it better. Okay, well then don't pay any attention to it.
Well, and really at the end of the day, if the people who made Breakfast Club, the people who have that the right to make another movie, if they feel like the Breakfast Club is a really good story and this generation now needs to watch it, and the only reason they're not watching it is because it's an old 80s movie and they don't care, so let's make it a movie with kids from today, which is what Breakfast Club was, a movie about kids in the 80s, made in the 80s.
Right. It was for them. It was, yeah.
I get it, but who cares?
Yeah, it's all right.
That's like when people, anytime they complain about any of that stuff, they made a remake of Red Dawn. They've ruined my childhood. How have they did they come to your house and take your copy of Red Dawn and break it in front of you? No, they didn't. You still have that to watch.
Yep. Doug here. This is the kind of thing that I think as well.
Yeah, I agree. The amount of people. Yeah. Yeah.
And there are those people that is exactly why they watch things, is to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what anybody else has going on in their life, but I can tell you, I do not have the time to watch something just to complain about it after. No.
Now I like reading these Golden Age Superman stories or some of these Conan issues and pointing out some of the silly, crazy things that they would do back then.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But it's not out of hate. It's because I think it's funny and it's more endearing to me.
Well, to me, I always am interested in apparently those things that worked because they wrote it or drew it a certain way. Yeah. Then with a pretty solid understanding of what works now. And I'm like, that you couldn't do that now. They can't, they won't, whatever. It's like, but back then, this Superman story with all of these breaks, and it's like, okay, people bought it and it was okay. Nowadays, it's like, no, not only are there no breaks, but those 13 pages would be 4 issues today. That,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff. All right. Well, this cat's about to drive me crazy and I'm going to go do another look outside for the missing cat. So, Currently, the tentative plan is to do this again same time next week.
Next week. Mhm.
So Doug, maybe we'll see you again next week. And then new episodes will be releasing in a couple of weeks. Freaking
Cool
cat
beans.
claws. Swear it's like, if you're not going to let me up on your lap, then I'm going to put my claws in your freaking thighs. Fine.
Okay.
God. So needy, this cat. All right. Well, Doug, take it easy.
Billy D,
Ed.
if you're still there, take it easy.
Let me go ahead and stop the live stream. I always
Okay.